All right, it looks like we are going live here. Give it a few seconds. There we are. Welcome, everybody, to Hash Church Season 11, Episode 24. Episode 24, if you can imagine. Here we are, 24 episodes in this year, and I just couldn't be happier about it. The consistency of church has been second to none. Haven't quite gotten as good as the initial first 3 years when I didn't miss a show, but hey, that's only 120 shows away. We'll see if we can make it. Um, oh, we're getting here. All right, so I would like to, as always, start off with shouting out our sponsors because they matter and they're awesome. I ended up getting a really cool box from the Press Club, and I'll show a little bit of that here later on. And in the meantime, we will talk a little bit about the press club right now. Let me just see where we're at here. Okay, here we go. The press club. Trusted by top hash makers. Actually, are we sharing it? There we go. There we go. All right, trusted by top hash makers from around the world since 2016, the Press Club is your one-stop shop for award-winning solventless gear. From press bags to wash bags to presses to vessels, you'll find everything you need from wash to press. We're big fans of the Press Club and what they're doing in the community, so we're excited to have them on board as an official sponsor for Hash Church. They are made in the USA. They've got the patented pink stitch. They've got zero blowout guarantee, which is pretty huge if you've ever made rosin. They are a small family-owned business, free expedited shipping over $75, and international shipping is also available. You can visit them at thepressclub.co and use code HashChurch, all capitals, to take 10% off your purchase. So shout out to the Press Club, and thanks for your support. Huge shout out to Puffco for powering Hash Church. Puffco's game-changing devices like the Sleek Peak Pro, the versatile Proxy, and the compact Pivot bring unmatched style and performance, making extracts a vibe for everyone. Their passion for cannabis culture keeps our community blazing strong. Discover the Puffco difference at www.puffco.com and follow at Puffco if you're on Instagram. All right, let's see what we got here. I'd like to shout my own company out. Big shout out to the Ubba Hubble bags. Let's see where we are here. There we are. Bubble bags do remain the gold standard for water hash extraction, pioneered by the innovators who defined the craft. Built to last, these top quality bags will come with a lifetime warranty guaranteeing years of flawless performance. With a legacy of excellence, the Bubble Bags team delivers unmatched reliability for enthusiasts and pros chasing premium hash results. Elevate your extraction game at www.bubblebag.com and use the code HashChurch10 for exclusive savings. Check that out as well. And in the meantime, I think I'm going to bring in my good friend Etienne. Etienne Fontaine, doing the good work over there in California. How you doing, brother?
Oh, marched with millions yesterday. So we went out and
I better
said,
put my
hey,
headphones on so I can hear you.
yeah, well, let's see. Am I being heard?
Oh, that's funny.
That better? That better? Can you hear me? No? No? Let me see. I gotta turn on and see if we're
You
being.
marched with millions yesterday?
Yeah, yep, yep,
Why
yep.
can't I hear
All
you?
over the
This is
country.
confusing
People
me.
were marching. Let me see. Is this me? Good. Let me see.
Okay, let's
Can
try
you hear me?
that.
Check, check, check,
I
check.
cannot hear you. This has to be on my end, though.
Yeah,
Raspberry, raspberry, yeah. Select your microphone. There we go.
there we go. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. I had my microphone as my speaker.
Zoom does that, man. I don't understand. of all the technology that they have that they can't do that. But regardless, yes, I was marching with millions yesterday. Yesterday was the No Kings Parade in America, where as opposed to celebrating the current guy in charge and his military parade, Americans went out and said, and yeah. I was in Berkeley. On the bridges, waving at thousands and thousands of people. We had thousands of people coming out. There was huge marches in Oakland, San Francisco, huge marches in Salt Lake City, in Iowa, Idaho, Missouri, all over the country. So,
Wow.
yeah, I've been an activist and I've been on the front lines for decades. So I had no problem. I had my two um, flag um, what do you call it? Flag holder. And yeah, I was out flying my flag, which had, here, I'll show you. Oh, send a request.
I will allow it. I will allow it.
All right, so I actually took out a 100% hemp flag,
Oh,
and then there's my heart flag too, because it was showing love. And then I think I also had, yeah, my Veterans for Peace.
dude, how long was your pole?
It goes up to 20 feet.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's serious wind. But yeah, I also had my Veterans for Peace flag out as well. So I wanted people to be there, and yeah, I wanted to be with my people. I'm usually go to the larger local, uh, the really large ones in San Francisco and Oakland. But since there was an event in Berkeley, I was going to be with my people, considering it's the start of the free speech movement as well as sanctuary city. So we were out representing, standing tall for all of America, and Americans came out by the tens of millions in marching, and it was peaceful, and that was good. But we were there to protect the protesters and exercise our duty of freedom of speech, which we did. And we said, fuck you. We don't want any dictators, no kings in our country. No offense to Canada. We respect their king. However, we did not respect their king enough to stay in their employ. So we left them a few hundred years ago. And yesterday was also the 250th year of the Army. Thank you, United States Army. I was in the United States Army, but we don't really care about the birthdays as much as our Marine friends do, because they
Yeah.
will let us know. And how do you know there's Marine around? Grab a grab some crayons and show them to your Marine friends. And if they start eating them, you know they're a Marine. So that's a joke.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I just want to say, I think that you're the most professional activist ever, dude. I mean, I obviously used to be more of an activist back in the day when we were really fighting in Canada for cannabis. And I remember going to those events, and there, with activism, there's always kind of like, you just don't want people to go too far. You want to kind of be like, you just don't want, at the end of the day, for your activism to be lost in some stupid shit. And
right.
I always see you just doing it right, dude. People could learn from you. Even when you bring things up that are controversial, that are, it's always with the most due respect. It's always with, I don't know, dude. It's just classy as always. And I'm glad that you're out there fighting, fighting for what you believe is right and fighting with your people, man. I mean, shit, you did fight wars for this country.
Mhm.
So I think you should have a voice when it comes to
Well,
these crazy things.
they taught us to fight. They never taught us to stop fighting. So that's what we shall do. We believe in our freedoms, and we're going to fight for them. So, no,
Hmm.
it's sad that in this day and age we have to exercise them, but if we don't flex them, they will take them. So, thank y'all for your guidance over the years and showing us what is possible and not possible with cannabis. And yeah, we're just going to try and preserve it so we can be those good neighbors next to you, and not
That in
a
this day and
crazy
age we
crack
have to
house right
exercise.
next to you going, hey man, you got some stuff. We don't want to be that neighbor in America, which we currently are. So we're trying to show that we are nicer people. There are nicer neighbors out there, and that this is only temporary. We'll get back to who we are, but right now we're fucked up children. Have to slap our own kids upside the head for a while. So don't count on America. We're kind of got our head up our ass, but don't worry, we're working on
Dude, I want to welcome Angus Young to the chat.
that.
You had your hair out, Johnny B. You were like, I'm like, I would expect you to be like,
I mean, I
oh,
mean,
thunder.
like rocking upstairs, going through all my old memorabilia. I found a box I thought I lost like 20 years ago. It's sitting on the thing over there, and I'm like, it's all my old models and all the old stuff I did when I like some old Johnny B.
Do not feel discouraged.
Okay,
Or
Google.
sit down and lament because you are misplaced. No one was ever
Okay,
so
Google off.
but that they could not find the right place.
Johnny
Well, that
B.
just.
All righty then.
Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny B. Johnny B, ladies and gentlemen.
It was because I have Audible going on, right? So I was listening to the book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Waddle. It's not about money, it's about the richness society that you can become. So check out that book. You
We'll
can listen
check
to
it
it.
out. We'll check it out. Man, I'm
You
just, a lot of fathers won't be making it today. I don't think we'll see Dr. Mark or Colin or a lot of the fathers today. It might be a short hash church, but I thought no matter what, I still want to join. I want to gather. It was a sad hash church last week celebrating the life of Wade Laughter. Obviously, we're going to feel that hole in the congregation for many, many years to come, if not forever. It was so nice to have Forrest come on and tell some of those old stories. It was nice to see Valerie. It was nice to see Eric. I hadn't seen Eric in a long time coming up from what was that event called, Etienne? The Fire Ridge?
the Ridge Sesh.
The Ridge Sesh. Seemed like
Yeah.
such a cool little event, man. It was
Oh, they invited me up there, but I had too much going on. It was such a short time. I would have loved to have. They're just like, no, boom. They just sent me a parking pass straight up. I was like, wow, that's very nice of them. I appreciate it, but too much going on, unfortunately, to make that. But yeah, it's absolutely touched my heart to see Forrest and to hear how Silas is graduating high school as a normal child. Wow. Uh, I grew up with epilepsy. I think I've said this before. I had childhood epilepsy, so I used to just pass out. I would just have these seizures, and they said I would eventually grow out of them, and I did. And I was very fortunate that I did because it really sucked because I couldn't go swimming, and I'm in Louisiana. I grew up in Louisiana, so I couldn't be like near a pool or anything like that because I could lights out at any moment, shape, or time. And fortunately, it was a childhood form of epilepsy, and I grew out of it. So I remember having to go to the doctor in the 70s, and they would spend like an hour putting all this putty on my head, and then put all these wires in. Now it comes in a cap, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't necessarily take the extraneous realities that it took. So. Um, that one was special in my heart because I don't really consider myself as an epilepsy survivor per se. I just grew out of it. So to and have watched Silas and others experience and go through what it is absolutely enriching to the soul beyond measure. You know what I'm saying? I know there's not all parents have that success story, but those that do, and especially that one, because of we watched it. We watched it. We watched it over the years. Unfortunately, him go through those seizures, and Forrest literally have to fly his child in a helicopter from Northern California all the way to the Children's Hospital, time and time again. And our boy Wade was there for him all the time, And so that was the reminder, and that's part of service sometimes, that silent service, doing what we can to help others in times of need when we can. And Wade was that example who um, yeah, rose above and beyond. I know he felt lucky for finding Harlequin, but what he did with it is what his life will be measured by. He helped countless others selflessly with love and respect. And Thank you, Marcus, for holding time and space for us last week. It was a brutal one. My eyes hurt after that one. Needless to say, the same way after losing Sam. So, um, everybody live well. Take care of yourselves. I don't need any more of these for a while. So, I love you all.
I'm telling you, dude, for real. I could also not use one of these for a while. I will say Happy Father's Day to my father. I'm gonna mute Johnny B because I was just about to hold my picture of my dad up as he just made the slightest sound and then it stole his camera. So you're muted just for a second, Johnny B, because I wanted to show just a couple of photos of my old man. There he is catching some fish back in the day, probably on the White Shell Lake blurred out photo. I don't know. He was probably not even 30 years old there. And then this was kind of a little bit before him and his wife passed away. They were driving the motorcycle quite a bit. They went and stopped and visited a little waterfall. That's my dad, Gary, and his wife, Marie. Both of them passed away on the motorcycle that I bought him for his 50th birthday about 5 years later. So I've been just kind of dealing with that for the last 20 years, but I do celebrate them as often as I can, and I sure miss them. I'll tell you that much.
Well,
It's crazy to lose your dad so young. Pardon me?
your father now.
I
So
am.
I think you have, well, a few times over, needless to say. So, I mean, how do you honor your dad with your children? I was curious about that.
Well, I mean, the majority, my two children met him when they were very, very young. He died 20 years ago, and my son's 21 and my daughter's 24. So they met him when they were 3 and 1. My 10-year-old son has never met him at all. I show him pictures, and we have pictures of him in the house, and I tell stories. But really, I would say probably the thing that passed on from my father to my children is my sense of humor. My dad was hilarious. He was always joking and making jokes and not just dad jokes. Like my dad had incredible timing when it came to punchlines and jokes and he was just really well known for it. So I kind of try to keep that alive in him with my kids, just and also when I see him in them, a little bit of him. I'll always let them know as well. He was very, very intelligent, my father, as well it was his mother. He got it from his mother. His mother was like super. My grandmother was highly intelligent. She ended up doing, she wasn't able to go to school when she was younger, and I can't remember why, but I don't think she went to school till around grade 6 or 7, and she just did all the grades in like a summer. Like she just crushed all the grades, which was interesting because my dad did a very similar thing when he was he had decided to sort of leave my mother and start a new life. And he was, so he left everything to my mom. He did it the kindest way you could leave a family. He left everything with her. He stayed present with my sister and I. And then he ended up meeting this woman, Marie, and ended up getting a house with her. And she had 3 kids that he was now helping to raise. And all while he was doing that, he decided to go back to high school, get his GED, go get his bachelor's, go get his master's, become the youngest fire chief in the history of Canada. And he kind of did all of that in like a couple of years. And so he was very, very prolific and he was very capable. And so I always grew up with that, at least for the first 33 years of my life, with a dad who was very, very capable of executing his plans and his ideas. So I do thank my dad for sort of passing that along down to me and definitely his sense of humor. He was completely twisted when it came to his sense of humor. And I see Diana saying same thing with my kids from Sam, his wild sense of humor. Sam had a wild sense of humor. I wish in a perfect world that my father and Sam could have met for sure. It would have been very, very, very cool. Um, yeah. So time to turn on the machine, as they say. I will go through this bag at one point in time. I got this incredible bag from the press club. They sent me all sorts of press bags, all sorts of different sizes. Some really cool shit in here, dude. I'm not gonna lie. One of the things that I was really thought was so cool, and I haven't even opened up the entire bag yet, but I thought this was kind of a cool little idea. I don't know if anyone has seen these from the press club yet, but I did think that it was a really cool fucking idea. So it almost looks like over your eyes, right? But it's gel, so you cool it. And it basically they have one that goes under your jars and one that goes over your jars, and they're super cool little cooling, little mini packs, refrigeration packs, so that you don't have to carry around this crazy thing, which I got to admit, it gets old pretty fast. This is just a cool little idea to be able to cool it down in your freezer and then drop it into your whatever container you're carrying your jars around. And man, Johnny B's got one too, I see.
I did a whole video on this. It's coming out today, actually. I love it. I did a whole unpacking of the same thing you're doing right now. Check this out. I love you, brother.
Yeah, I got my spoons. I wanted to shout out the spoons from the press club. This is their brand new bubble hash collecting spoon, and I gotta say, I love the idea of this. First of all, this is a proper spoon. That is a proper spoon right there. Are you kidding me? Like, imagine no one has just created a simple product like the spoon for scooping out hash. I got to admit, it feels good in the hand. Pretty normal size handle, but a giant, giant. And look at that, right in the bottom there. You can see
Did
the
they
press club.
did they come out with with some a set of hot knives for release as well? You know what I'm saying? I mean, they got
Wait,
spoons.
Mark,
Nobody's ever done a limited, hot knife relief. You know what I'm saying? Come on, Hash Church people. That's where we all started on the hot knives. I understand we've progressed, but don't forget the glowies.
Can't forget the glowies, dude. It's impossible to
take a
forget the
listen.
glowies. And I will say, there was a time where we just stopped fucking with hot knives and we hammered out spoons because they were so much bigger. And we were doing hot spoons towards the end. In fact, the mayor, which was the pipe that was invented by the Holy Smokes guys in the Kootenays, the mayor actually was a spoon bent over a torch that had the bell over top of it, that the glass bell that went into the little nasty rubber tube that went into the bong. So yeah, shout out to the press club. I haven't even gotten a third of the way into this thing, and it's just full of
Dude,
super awesome shit. So
you
Is
we
mentioned
got
that
some
spoons.
premium rosin parchment. Look at that.
Johnny
Premium
B
rosin
showing an old
parchment.
school? Is that one of your old school flattened spoons?
This is literally 30 years old. That's why I laughed. When you
Nice.
mentioned it, it just made me laugh so hard. I love you, man. And this is exactly how we had to smoke our hash back in the days, right? It's like, shh, and I would do this directly on the element. Shh, right? It's like, and then, yeah, that was funny. And if you ever had an element blow up, man, let me tell you, I think I still got the burn mark right here.
I never have. I never, in all the years of hot knifing, I never saw an element blow up, and we kept those things red hot for hours. In fact, we graduated from the element very quickly and started carrying around acetylene torches in our backpacks, and that was over 30 years ago when the Mare was first created. It was a spoon mounted right over an acetylene torch that would just get that thing so hot. I will never forget, and I can't even remember who I did it to, but I gave a glowy one time of the red oil on a hot spoon to a friend, and he was sitting there in shorts, and this oil went onto this red hot spoon, and of course it was so hot it was like hot water or cold water on a hot pan. It just created a ball, and then it just started moving around really quick in circles, and then it just jumped, and it just went right on the inside of his leg. This leg, dude, I'm telling you, it was bad. It was very bad. Pulling that oil out was like pulling his flesh off of his leg. It was definitely terrible. It was a terrible experience for him, and I wish I could remember who it was. I definitely have a picture of the oil melted into his leg, and it was like the size of like a 25-cent piece. But apparently it went in a little bit. Worst place to get a hot dab has to be on the inside of your thigh. I'm just thinking that that hurt for months on end.
Yeah, I hurt from just hearing that.
It
Christ.
was horrible, dude. And I gave it to him. Like, just, there was a time where I was absolutely fucking clueless to most things cannabis for certain in regards to dabbing. I was a late dabber. I didn't dab right away. I remember there was a guy, and I wish I could remember his actual name, but he went by Clear Domes. And he was a friend of mine from online, and he was always trying to get me to, I'm sure to this day, he tells people, I got Bubble Man into dabbing. It's his claim to fame for sure, because he definitely did. He was like, you got to get dabbing, man. You got to get dabbing. For me, it was tough because I was hitting off of a stainless steel screen with full melt bubble and I was using the flame, swafting it back and forth. So I really was dabbing. I was
Just
just doing it in a little bit of a more archaic way.
there you go. Etchen's got his too. Thank you. Boom. Little dabber right.
Yeah, these little micro torches from Blazer. I have
Ooh,
one that's almost 30 years old that I got from
Hey, this
yeah, these are like a little more expensive, but they're worth it because these last decades. They're little
I
jet engines.
and I'm sure people have burned themselves with those as well.
You do once,
You
and
do
then you don't do it
once.
again.
Hey,
That's for the
welcome,
big. That's for the
welcome to
big Blazer.
Colin.
That's for these.
Happy Father's Day there, Father.
Thanks, man. How you guys doing?
Well, I'm pretty good. I wasn't sure we were going to see you today, even for any amount of time. I figured you'd be out and about with the family, out and about.
I was, and then I'm back. I'm gonna pop in for a minute, just so want to make sure I'm keeping consistency with everybody, and
Appreciate
yeah,
you, brother.
just wanted to share space with y'all because we're fam. And I think it's a day of for me not only reflection of my own journey, but the one that we've all been on, right? And as you said earlier, we've all been touched by mentors in our lives in different ways, and it's just unique, we all have a story behind that. And much like your father, my father had a crazy sick sense of humor that was, it's what I mean? So we all share that, I think. It's definitely in our blood. But
That's awesome.
yeah, just enjoying the day, and I was just doing some dabs and looked at my watch and I was like, yo, I'm late.
It's Saturday morning, man. It's Saturday morning. Well, I'm really hoping that this show will come together next week. I've been trying to organize it for months, and there's almost been no communication. The abstract guys are very communicative, but I can't get. I talked to Jeremy Plum briefly. I can't get in touch with Alec Dixon. I can't seem to get Dr. Mark Lewis or Dr. Mark Sheldon to reply. So kind of putting it in the air. Worst case scenario, it's an abstract show and the rest of those guys don't make it, but I'm certainly not going to delay this any longer. I want to get into this conversation of aromatic volatiles and long sulfur chain compounds. I think it'll be pretty awesome, but I guess we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, maybe I can contribute with them because I've never said this out loud, but I spent, I don't know, 2 calls a week for 2.5 years with these guys every week.
Yeah.
And we've gone through the gamut. I mean, we created the sleep formulation with Pax Labs with Abstract. We could talk maybe a little bit about that. We
Yeah.
could talk about some of the research that we collectively did, some of the profiles that we kind of chased, and some of the CDT stuff that we talked about, how I was kind of, always battling the conversation with why not CDTs all the time.
Mm.
Cannabis rich terpenes, like why do we have to create profiles was a big conversation all the time that I'd bring up. And they have some really great concepts as to why profiles can be built, right? But I think there's so many things we can talk about with Abstract and their team. Max and his brother, they've put such a cool team together over there, just such humble, smart, and forward-thinking individuals that, based on the work that they've done, it's really apparent to me that they really are just trying to find the truth, like they're just trying to search through concepts and not really have too much of an ego about it, which is really cool from a team of scientists that really all know so much. It's like they're all so brilliant in their own right, but to bring them together as a team is really cool. So mad respect for Abstract and what they're doing and continue to do. I've spent a lot of time with that team and they're really cool. There's not a whole lot of teams in, volatile organic compounds that are out there doing the work that they are doing. Most of these people are just selling things, right? Like they
Yeah.
sell, right? And that's fine. But I also feel like Max and his brother and his team, not to keep talking about Max, but because I know Max would be like, no, it's not about me, it's the team. But that's why Max is who he is. He's just a great human. But they've just done a lot, and they've really helped, not only ourselves, I think, as individuals here, not on just only the panel, but of those of us out there that are looking to make better products. They've given you the tools that otherwise just wouldn't be here. So it's really easy to kind of look at terpene companies and say, oh, they just sell stuff. But Abstract is very much the opposite. So it's really cool that um, they're willing to come on the show and want to talk about it because there's a lot of depth there.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't even know if
I just want to
I
take a
don't.
second. Thank you, Colin,
Oh,
for
go
your
ahead.
work
Yeah,
with them,
please.
because that's very important work that you did, and it's great that there are teams out there that are willing to listen actively. Because we found early on, like with the testing, we had people that were like, "No, no, no, we want to make proprietary." We're like, "No, it needs to be open source." You know what I'm saying? So having ethical scientists there and literally guiding the way is crucial and important, more than you realize, people, because there's tons of people behind the scenes making it happen, and not all of us pop our heads up. And I want to thank you, Colin, because I know you've done that quietly behind the scenes. So mad respect.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's necessary. We have to understand, one thing I learned working with a toxicologist is, we come in for wellness and we leave with a world of chemicals that you don't think about when you're formulating things, right? When you're making new iterations of product. What's up, Mark? You rarely think of SDS sheets. You rarely think of things that are, towards the end of how much of this chemical is there and what is it going to do to you if too much of it is there. So that's something I never actually thought about until, I don't know, 5 years ago. So, it was a real eye-opening experience with them. And I think that's, it'd be great to kind of have them talk about more of that to the public because there's a lot of knowledge that they can share on, um, what does tox mean and how do these organic compounds kind of play a role in that, and, furthermore, if you're designing a profile, what other things are in there that may or may not be harmful to you, you know? So it's a big conversation, but it's super cool because the plant produces things that are equally as harmful as these other things that come out of nature, right? And we don't really often think about that. Polygon is one of them, right? We don't think of polygon a lot, but it's certain varietals, produce that in high amounts that we rarely kind of call out. So I'll leave it there. What's up, Mark?
Are
Sort
we
of your
talking about are we talking about chemistry again?
little bit. I'm just touching on the fact that tox is a little more important than we may realize, especially when we're designing products for consumption. And I was just kind of pointing out how it was fairly new within the next last 10 years for me. I can't imagine not being able to think that way moving forward, at this stage.
Well,
So
and route to administer is really important too. Like you can't just take oral toxicity and extrapolate it into inhalation toxicity. So
yeah.
you have to, if you just consider the chemistry that's going on in normal pulmonary function, right? As you have these hemoglobin molecules that have CO2 stuck to it that need to liberate the CO2 and need to pick up oxygen, and that all happens in very delicate tissue deep in our lungs. So yeah, putting inhaling a variety of different chemicals on there that it's one thing if I guess you're again just consuming plant material or, hash, where humans have been exposed to that for millennia, and it doesn't seem to cause the issues that it causes. That, companies like True Terpenes and all the other terpene companies can just load up, all these terpenes and terpenoids, like you mentioned, polygon. Polygon's a really interesting one, right?
Yep.
I think it's a terpenoid, right? And so
Mhm.
it's actually a oxidized terpene because there's a ketone in there, right? So there's an oxygen in there, and it's like there's related other ketone. Well, camphor is a ketone. Carvone is a ketone. Carvone's a really interesting one because one enantiomer smells like mint, kind of like a little piney, and the other enantiomer is exactly the essence of caraway seed. So if you've ever smelled rye bread, you know what caraway seed smells like. So yeah, I mean, the human olfactory is able to distinguish very slight differences in these. But like the point you're bringing up, Colin, is super important because the dose is in the poison, right? You're going to look at these compounds in very, very, very small quantities, and that's really what the abstracts folks have done great. Using their sophisticated chemical detector and the sulfur detector that they use, they're able to discern very, very small quantities of these thio compounds. And, we all know that sulfur, yeah, it's got kind of like that rank shit smell to it. So, yeah, it's not a far stretch of the imagination that that's where that essence comes from in cannabis, too, as well. And, yeah, just the amounts of those compounds, like when that's in natural gas doesn't smell at all, and they odor it with, I think, butane thiol and maybe a couple of the other really small volatile ones, and they're only there in like part per million, part per billion concentration, and you could smell instant gas when you leave a burner on instantly. So I mean, our noses are really tuned into those scents. So yeah, that's really what abstracts, I think. And again, those folks who were doing this in hops, and certainly it's some of the same chemistry going on in hops, I really kind of filled out the rest of the puzzle on what makes cannabis smell the way it does, right? We know the fruity smells, we know the gassy smells, now we know the dank, skunky smells, and what's responsible for those. Just like we've talked about before, it's a more full bodied smell, if just like when you're listening to an orchestra as opposed to just a string quartet. Can you reproduce an orchestral piece on a string quartet? Yeah, but it's not going to be as full bodied, right?
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah, and it's the things like one thing you said was like these flavorants that are not meant for inhalation, like strawberry Farinone's a good call out. Like there's a ton of that being used in lots of formulations that are inhaled at this point. And it's just
Yeah,
factually
at high concentrations, those can be irritants. So that's
yeah.
that's where like the plant itself has kind of worked out. I don't want to say it's worked out. I mean, it's bred for that, right? It's bred for flavor and the experience that humans get when they smoke it and consume it. Certainly, it's more pronounced in concentrates and hash. But you would think again that at this point in time, the best thing you could possibly be doing is just try to mimic what's going on in the plant. But even the best flavoring chemists, Colin, can't get it, man. I mean, so as
Not
cool
at
as
all.
abstracts, thinks that they can put a profile in a bottle.
Yes.
Yeah, it's profile in a bottle. It's you know,
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
not as dank as the weed.
Well, I always say like therein lies the genetic exploration, and you need genomic research to really start a breeding program for this, right? And then, which a lot of people are. We've had a few people on here that are working with people like TBF, etc. And just from what I've seen at scale with those alone, I've been to Byron, I've been to those farms and seen those plants alive. I mean, it's all possible. It's just how much work do you want to put in, you know?
Yeah, but like it's just the wine industry, for example, because it's kind of similar, right? It has a lot to do with the genetics of the plant, has a lot
Yeah.
to do with how the plant is grown, the terroir, the the care that's taken, because you're not consuming the great plant, right? You're consuming a processed product from the plant. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and you don't really see companies trying to reproduce terpene profiles of grapes. So it's like, I think the plant's got it down. Plant's a pretty good chemist.
Yeah.
And after all, yeah,
I called nature's chemist, Mark, like nature's chemist is not to be played with, like quote me on that, you can't, I've seen it. I mean, I've seen supercomputers built with pipettes and trying to, mimic the whole thing. And it's like you said, you're using a quartet to
well,
play.
you got to wonder, like, if maybe an application of AI in this field of flavorants and flavors and whatnot can be
Yes.
used, in a productive way to basically get to optimized flavors that can be, reproduced or chemically synthesized.
I created a GTP around this. It's a genotype GTP on exactly what you're talking about right now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, here's a question for the group though. Do we have enough information to really build it? Because this has been, come across me a few times over the past, call it 6, 7 years. Like, can we build an AI that could then build formulations that could build this, that, and the other, right?
100%.
Sure.
Getting there,
But,
you
but
know.
here's the question to the group. Do we truly have the assays to do what we're saying, right? Can we actually call out all the chemical constituents to then actually build it? Or are we missing out whole subclasses? I'm just asking the question. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think about this a lot.
you have to start somewhere, right? We
Mhm.
started right when I tested for originally back in '07 and '08, right? We were
Yeah.
just testing for THC, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we did that, right? So you got to start with a block somewhere. Now, what are we
Sure.
testing for? Now we're testing for a whole bunch. So were we missing something? Yes, we were missing a lot, but we had to find a cornerstone, right? And we did. And then when we found that secondary cornerstone, what did we do? We rushed back to Meshulam's work, and oh look, we found it was CBD, right? So
Sure.
we also know, and let me put that caveat, we also don't know what problems are going to arise from starting at this starting point, right? Because that's what we saw. We saw that a lot of anecdotal conversations have now become a realization with chemically, because science has caught up, but science is not caught up here yet, because we know no one's been able to make, just for the layman, a replicative formula of cannabis on the flower to what we ingest, or what can be made in a lab. And that's not there, hasn't been there, far from there. We've realized we're so far from there, the only way to do it is to extract it from there. So we learn through our failures and where we want to be, because now it's put us here. So I'll turn that question around, Colin.
Yeah.
When do you think it will be ready to start?
I don't know. I keep going back to the assays. Like, we have to be able to see what's fully there to really recreate it. Like, it's almost like not having the full color spectrum to then recreate a painting, right? So I think that we can, or in music terms, we don't have the all of the we don't have the full picture of the composition. Like, it's not like we may have the chorus and verse, but we don't have the bridges, right?
We only have six of the chromatic notes. How about that?
Yeah, that's even a better analogy. So like that's how I look at it, is like we're playing guitar, right? But we're missing whole inversion. Like, we don't even know how to do
We're
inversions yet
playing
'cause we don't have
grunge,
the notes.
or
Yeah.
or or, or three chord punk, right?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great analogy too. Yeah, we're kind of there. Yeah, we're playing three chord punk, which is cool because you can make that your whole life, right? And that's amazing in its own right. But there is a world out there that I think of when I, like where how do we get to you know, the Bill Laswell of cannabis, right? How do we get to the
The
Miles
police.
Davis or whatever insert here, whatever your analogy is? But I think we're to get there, I think you're right. We have to develop it. But I get this like constant like confidence in like you can just use it, and I'm always like, well, if I had all the notes, I guess I could probably play that composition, but I don't have it. To Mark's point, right? I'm playing punk right now, right? So I don't know. I That's kind of how I've looked at it. Is I feel like the more we know, we realize how little we know. Right? The more we learn, I guess, we realize how little we know. And at this stage, I feel like we just know so little, even though we have this vernacular that we talk in. Um, it's just needs a lot of work. So that's how I'd put it is I'm not quite sure. Because if the chemistry is sound, I would say yes, we can get in there and start creating, right? But I don't think it's sound enough yet. Um,
I
but
always
it's
appreciated Sam's perspective. When I was in Leiden with Skunkman Sam, we were in the front row at the International Cannabis Research Society event. And this must have been like 2014 or something. I remember Dr. Mark Lewis was there and Chimera, I believe, was there. There was a bunch of us that were there. And we were sitting in the front row, and one of the presentations was about creating cannabinoids in a reactor. So it was back to this like, oh, we're going to just grow these cannabinoids. And, I'll never forget Dave leaning over to me and saying, like, I really don't see a day where they're ever going to be able to do this cheaper than I can do breeding and growing in a field. He's like, I can just breed these compounds into the plant, and then I can grow like acres of it, and they're just going to have a hard time competing with me in regards to the cost and the time and the complexities, and more importantly, the cannabis itself has its own intelligence that helps produce what it produces. And we don't have the cannabis intelligence, just like we don't have the fungi intelligence. We have the human intelligence, which is great. It's amazing. It's a very impressive intelligence, but it's not quite. I have yet to see anyone come even close. And even when they first started doing it, like scientists, like Dr. Ethan Russo with True Terpenes, I was just like, but like, you can't really create an aromatic profile without all the aromatics, right? Like, I mean, I get that we know there's 16 terpenes present, but you're just going to put those 16 terpenes together, and then that's going to be what you think is a representation of, these very complex compounds. It's one of the reasons, Dr. Mark, I want to get, yourself and the abstract team on there, but I also want to get Marshall Nick Ziegler, and Nick's analytical team that built the equipment to perceive the thiols and thiolates that they discovered in hops and some of the other aromatics. So that was also a big part of this conversation. Nick has been a little bit MIA. I've heard from Jeremy Plum a little bit. He said he was going to make his best attempt. He was flying from Colombia to Hawaii to Peru to wherever, literally on the day of this episode, but he said he would try to make it. And I think he would be a great addition, but I really am hoping Marshall and Nick and the analytical team from Yakima Chief Hops are able to make this conversation, because I think it'll be a much fuller profile, if you will. If we only have abstract, it's kind of like just inviting, the long sulfur chain compounds. I don't know. It's metaphorically, I just want all of us to show up for this. I'd love to have Alec from SC Labs. I'd love to have Jeremy, obviously, Dr. Mark Lewis, and Nick and Marshall. Hopefully those guys can make it out. I keep sending emails, I keep sending texts. I'm not feeling overly on about it, but I figure if they can't show up, we still do an episode. We crush it out of the park. I send it to all of those guys that didn't show up, and then they'll be like, frothing at the mouth to get in and have their say on the conversation, because I know it's going to be a great one.
So I
It's
thought
not
we were
just
on
that.
for next week, 22nd, no?
We are, we are. I just don't
Okay.
know. Like Nick wanted to create a structure, much like Rob Clark requested. He didn't want to just have an open conversation that went in every single direction. He was like, let's just, and for me, he hasn't really been replying to emails. So I don't, I'm going to try and call him this week and see, it wasn't always about having him on. It was always about him and Marshall and this analytical team that put this analytical equipment together to perceive these compounds in the first place. He really wanted them to come on because he was kind of, saying a lot of the work was their work. He didn't want to take credit for it. So hopefully we can make it happen with that team as well as abstracts. But bottom line is we're absolutely doing it next week. I know Marshall Lagour, PhD and sensory scientist, is going to be there for sure. It sounds like Jeremy will make it. I know you and abstract are going to be there, so it should be fine. I just obviously am wanting everyone to
Hey, you're starting the conversation. You can have others. It's not like it's the last hash church, Marcus.
true.
So, you're starting it, and it'd be great if they were all there because it would be the first time that all of this discussion would be public, right? Most of these things happen behind the scenes, behind closed doors, or if you're lucky enough to catch a seminar, right? And I think it's very important for us to get this information out there. There's so many questions our viewers have, not including ourselves, right? That we're able to ask and dispel. And that's really a major thing because this is another frontier, and to help understand those frontiers with those that went through the woods, that went through the valleys, that went through the water, can help give you a perspective unlike anything. That it's one of those things I learned when I was doing science, is there's a whole journey along the way, and that journey of learning is crucial to understanding about how we arrived there. I'm a lay scientist, but I had to appreciate that as a lay scientist. But I must say to Dr. Mark and Colin, as professional, scientists, that must be satisfying to pull through. The few times it does, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, in general, you know, people are hungry for information, right? Science is just a mechanism to provide that information. So, yeah, it's great. And the thing with the abstracts folks is, they published an awful lot of their stuff. So a lot of their stuff is on open access out on the internet, so you could read about it, what's going on. And they do have a really talented team. And part of their business is, a bottom line focused business that's looking to, sell products and become profitable. But I think, the powers to be there also see the intellectual property that can be generated by conducting research. And, that's what excites me about it, is that, they're doing research and they're figuring out, all the things that are in some of these varieties. Yeah, their work is really super interesting because what they've done too is they've looked at, like, they've compared rosins, and obviously there is some effect in the rosin, like, because you're heating it up, so there could be certainly a way of, I don't know, losing some of the most volatile notes, perhaps doing some oxidation in that process. Be interesting to actually compare, say, rosin from the same variety as, either dry sift or BHO, and look to see, what kind of changes in between terpene profiles you can see as a function of the process that's used to isolate the grapes, So, yeah, I mean, all those studies that they've put out there in the literature, I think, have attracted a lot of attention. They had like two different booths at BizCon this year, and they had one booth that was just dedicated. You wouldn't even know it was a cannabis company, Colin, because
I
it was
know.
just
I talked to
all total,
Max. I was
all
supposed to be
total.
there, man. I wanted
Yeah,
to. I was like, yeah, because
it
he
was
told me
all.
about the whole the what they're doing with SC Labs. They're trying to further phytofacts and they're trying to get, a better, broader understanding of that through, I can't remember the term that Max used, but and honestly, I want to say this to the viewers, like it's because the owners of the company are true heads. Like they love fantastic, amazingly grown, beautiful cannabis, and they love the extract of it. They spend a lot of time with 710 Labs and Brad and those guys. They're all friends, and I think they're just very into high quality cannabis. And I think as a result, they're interested in the unknown. And as a founder and CEO, Max really pushes that narrative because he believes in it, and that's really unique to have someone that sees the value in that in a C-suite like that. I think Mark, you've said that a few
Yeah.
times. You really value people that see that at an executive level. It's rare that you do see that. So to your point, I think Max, with the comment you made about the non-cannabis looking company, is trying to make it more approachable because, one thing I wanted to say is he when he told me about the hop stuff that he was doing, before he released the information that he was doing all of that work, it all kind of makes sense because it's all related to one another, right? So they're actually growing hops in Oregon. I think we should talk about this on the show and ask them how that research cross complements itself because they're able to see so much, and that's something in our world we don't see a lot of. So yeah, I think they've done such a good job, to your point, Mark, that at MJ Biz when they revealed it, what was your take on that? Like when you saw it, were you just kind of like excited? Like what was your thoughts?
Well, they had a sensory booth. Well, they had their regular booth where they just were giving out swag, and they had reprints of Ian and TJ's papers, and kind of most of their salespeople were talking with, uh, you know, basically CPG end of the business, consumer products. So looking at, okay, we want a sour diesel soda or something like that. So let's go over there, see what their sour diesel flavor tastes like, maybe get some prototypes and sodas, and it's again, kind of like what A-Team was saying before. I mean, trying to reproduce cannabis flavors and cannabis profiles, and now pairing that up with hemp derived D9 is, okay, I guess we could we could completely engineer cannabis products, right? Because we could take chemically derived D9. You saw that interesting thread on LinkedIn this week with that guy, right? So,
Dude, and I'll just address that for you. Like that went completely like right here and then went whoop, like a million miles an hour right over. It was like aerodynamics of air, like flying right over his head. It was astounding. And guys, what we're talking about is Mark made a comment about HD9 and how we don't really understand the isomers, and maybe you can, kind of talk about it, Mark, a little bit. But
well,
the
we
gentleman seemed to
yeah
be
we
blind.
we we do. I mean, from the chemistry point of view,
Yeah,
all that chemistry is known. We do understand that when you chemically convert
right.
CBD into THC, that it makes these isomers. What we don't know is what the impact of those isomers are on human health, and they're not like if you look at some of these COAs. There's an interesting COA that I posted in that thread, right? That was what a vendor called KCA compliant D8 distillate. And I was like, oh, okay, KCA compliant. So KCA, for those of you who don't know, is a hemp and cannabis testing lab in Kentucky. They're really good too. KCA's chief scientist is Dr. Marks, and he really knows what he's doing. Richard Marks, really bright guy. He's spoken on our ACS group had a YouTube video on Delta 8 where we talk about some of the byproducts that are made in Delta 8. And Dr. Marks commented on that and was actually the inspiration for the analytical group at Cayman Chemical to develop and publish an application note on using gas chromatography instead of HPLC to analyze delta 8. So delta 8, well, delta 8 products and now hemp derived D9 are derived in the chemical conversion of CBD. And so you don't need to run HPLC on those because there's no acids, right? Because everything's been decarboxylated, right? So you can get away with doing gas chromatography. And as it turns out, HPLC, the byproducts collude. That's what this guy doesn't understand. First of all, this guy had no idea who I am. Right? He
Yeah, which is
obviously
awesome, kind of.
when he
It was
was
awesome.
commenting, he's like, "Oh, you don't have any data." And it's like, you know what? I do have data actually, but I ain't going to share it with you on this thread. I'll just I think I commented in that thread that he was fooled by multiple misconceptions. And
Well, he's a
yeah,
writer too, so let's call this out. He's writing on behalf of these
well,
chemicals,
he's a
right?
hemp guy. Yeah, he's a hemp.
Right.
He's got hemp products.
He's
He's
got
selling
blinders on.
THC
Yeah,
over state lines. Kevin McKernan pointed that out to him, which I
totally.
don't think he'd like to hear. But he wrote a kind of like an op-ed piece on hemp derived D9's not so bad, folks. You know, like fentanyl and heroin. Yeah, those things are real bad. Hemp derived D9, no one's dying from it. No one's whatever. Tried to make a kind of like just a businessman's point of view. Doesn't
Hmm.
really understand the science, which is, I guess, very par for the course these days. There's a lot of people who are making money in the quote unquote cannabis slash hemp industry that don't really understand. All they know is that they're making money and that people want to buy these things. And remember, when you sell a beverage, most of what you're selling is water. So it's cheap to make these things. Once you have the equipment that could make these in bulk, you turn on that machine and it's like a license to print money, right? I mean, these things are selling and they're selling in some of the most cannabis unfriendly markets here. And then when they run into states like California, ATN could tell you there's lawsuits in California. The hemp derived people are again bringing stuff into California. That's completely like weird, right? To think that cannabis products or products that contain THC are being imported into California. That's totally nuts because California outproduces its ability to consume. That's why there's such still a big black market that stems from California. But just go back to this guy's thread for a second. So Kevin McKernan chimed in with a link to the hemp hoax, and that was a thing that Martin Lee and the Project CBD people put out that kind of described that a lot of products are being produced today under the hemp banner that don't come from hemp at all. And in fact, if you separate CBD coming from hemp, right, because CBD could be made synthetically, and I believe the cheap supply of CBD in the world is made synthetically and not derived from hemp. Now you could take a completely synthetic intermediate, convert it into the active ingredient of cannabis, add some flavors from abstracts, and now you can fool people in that, oh, that really did come from cannabis when it's just all completely synthetic, like, grape soda. There's no grape juice in grape soda. It's all just, artificial coloring and flavoring. But, I guess at the end of the day, those products sell. You go to Walmart, I mean, people buy grape flavored shit, right?
Yeah.
Grape flavored sugar water sells, red cherry flavored soda water sells. So, the bulk of the American consuming public, at least, would buy stuff because it's priced right as opposed to called as, quality artisan stuff. So I don't know where to go with this. It's
Well, no, what you're touching on really strikes a chord with me because it's like cost of goods. Like I look at terpene costs all the time, and I'm like, why is the botanical still so much cheaper than the CDTs, cannabis diverge? Like it's still we're talking like huge gaps, man. Like you're talking liters that could go for 6 to 8 thousand bucks or
yeah,
we'll call it 2,500 all the way up to 12,000 bucks, like depending on your source and how good it is. That's still worlds away from what a botanical isolated terpene at its purest form could be. I mean, you're talking in purity too, right, Mark? Like,
Yeah,
because
well, I mean, like
remember, like, plant doesn't
with
produce
things like
purity in the way,
with things like limonene, you're up against the citrus industry, right? It's a
Oh,
byproduct of crushed orange peels,
yeah,
right? So if you're getting limonene at such a scale that it just you can't you just can't compete. I mean, I think
yeah,
that's one of the things is that in a commodity industry, and we are, cannabis by definition is a commodity. And I think that's what this guy, I think in his thread kind of like almost admits that this is a fucking commodity. And
hmm
he's right, because he said the THC molecule, whether it's derived from cannabis or it's been synthesized, delta 9 trans, 10AR, not 6AR, is the molecule is identical. That's right. But the process that's being used to make hemp derived D9 is not an enzymatic process like it happens in the plant, where you're only making single components of those secondary metabolites. In chemistry, you're making a plethora of things, and we don't fully understand those. And
yeah.
I'm
So
writing a
true.
paper
You're
with.
right. We really don't understand those things, and I think that was kind of your point of what you said. And I don't know how that missed there, but I think it's something that I think eludes the most sophisticated people sometimes in the business sector of this whole thing. They just don't get it, man. Like they don't
Well,
understand
to a businessman, it's just a commodity. Okay,
totally. But it's
you,
but what you
you're saying
said,
that this active ingredient has got some bad actors in it. Fine, I'll find a
right,
new supplier, get a different active ingredient. We'll get a different COA.
right.
Maybe this COA was only 78%. Maybe this COA is 88%. So I'm paying a little bit more for this one. But, at the end of the day, as
Yeah.
long as they taste like grape soda and 7 Up, who gives a shit? People love them, and they want to buy them. The question I think that you have to ask companies like True Terpenes and Abstracts. I mean, it's interesting. Again, the notion that they can reproduce a terpene profile from something that somebody can grow from a cannabis plant. I think still, I'm not convinced that they're complete matches. I think the abstract stuff with the thiols kind of helps the terpenes along, because now you could really start to add that spiciness and that fire and that gas. That terpenes, to me, they all smell the same. They all smell like turpentine, or it's like got that kind of like pine sol, lemon, citrusy. Yeah, it kind of all smells the same, but cannabis smells very, very different from one another. And I think that the abstract guys are onto it, that these thiols, which are there at a much smaller concentration, really steer a lot of that sensory perception that we have. And I love the connection that they've made between gas and the tropicals, because if you look at some of their work, I think the latest work, they go after those Tropicana sulfur compounds, and I guess they find them in not just really gassy things, but they find them in the what is that, Baccio Gelato, that one
Yeah.
strain.
Well,
In fact,
they,
Mario was
yeah.
there at BizCon, and when they were talking about it, they shouted out Mario, and Mario was really psyched, because I'm sure he's making a lot of money on that variety.
Yeah. No, but again, I think they're pulling together the right minds to try to provide something for the market here in terms of morals that I think is, I think it's important to keep pushing that narrative is like we're trying to build something that, is accessible, but I also feel, I'd love to have them talk about the citrus compound that they found. I mean, I had dinner with Max and he's talked a lot about that, and that's a really neat Like that's what
You
makes it worth it. When you find a new compound like that, you're like that all this stuff we do makes it all worth it.
so
You know,
you
so
keep talking about Max. I've been talking to the abstract guys now for a couple
yep.
months, and Max isn't on the email. It's Ian, it's
Right,
David, it's
right.
Yeah.
Twinkle. There's like
TJ.
4 or 5 or 6 of them, but no Max.
Yeah, so Max Kobe founded the company with his brother. All those guys work for Max.
Right. So I
Yeah,
guess he just doesn't want to be a part of the show,
Kevin
maybe.
Cody. Isn't his name Kevin?
Kevin's his brother, the COO.
Okay, Kevin's the
So
COO. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So they're both Southern California
Okay.
surfer guys. Great guy. Like, dude, such I've had dinner with them at MJ. Like
I
they're
don't think Max is coming on the show is all I'm saying because you've mentioned him like 20 or 30 times now and he's the only one that I
well,
haven't spoken to on the email chain yet.
I'll
Ian,
I'll
they keep
ask
bringing
them.
up Ian like he's the main guy or something. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe
we'll get
he's the
Ian to
main
talk about
chemist
it.
or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll get
Max is
Ian to
obviously
start.
welcome. They're all welcome to come. Everyone's
Well,
welcome to come. The whole community is welcome to come for this show. No, I'm not really actually. Most people are not going to be welcome to come on this show. But it's cool. I'd like to meet him for sure. Sounds like an interesting fellow.
I'm texting him right now. I said, "Hey, brother,
Nice.
happy Father's Day."
Yeah, Ian is kind of like their. I think he's the director, but I think TJ might be the chief scientist. So TJ Martin knew Ian from graduate school, and
Uh,
TJ hired Ian, from what I understand.
those names
And
I recognize. Twinkle, Ian,
yeah, and Twinkle.
TJ, David.
Yeah, David Cooper is kind of like their marketing guy, I think,
Okay,
Marcus.
okay. Okay. Yeah, he's the
And
one kind of organizing and helping like organize the show.
mhm. Well, and he's the guy. Are they sponsoring the show too, Marcus?
I'm not too sure, actually, to be honest. That kind of fell to the way.
Yeah, you should send David an email and tell him that we look forward to you sponsoring this episode. You know, they sponsor a lot of YouTube commercials. I'm surprised how much abstracts advertising I see on YouTube. So,
And they have also have Terplandia, who is they're the CDT side of their business for them, which they'd be good to have on. They have a dry farm. They have a spot in Kentucky. They do dry farming there. Um, be interesting to hear about that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Just smashed out the last of the Sauce Rosin Labs. Shout out to those guys in the Craft Greenery for making it available in Canada. This is some of the best rosin that's currently available in the legal um, market by
Huh?
by a mile.
what's it go for?
Which one is it?
I'm not sure what it goes for. It's called Sauce Rosin Labs. I would think it's probably got to be 50 plus bucks a gram. Um, but I'd have to ask you know what? I bet you Mark's watching right now and he's probably going to text me here soon and tell me what the price is
80
if I
bucks a
was a
gram.
80 bucks a gram. Who said that?
No. I'm only kidding.
Oh
That's what his
shit.
text is going to be, right?
Damn, not one of those $80 a grams.
well,
Damn.
I'm gonna go get myself my Puffco, and we're gonna all do a dab here. So I'm gonna have to go in a little bit.
I like it. I like it.
Right back.
I gotta show
If
you.
we have to, gosh darn it.
Oh, Etienne. It's tough. I know it's tough. I just had those from High Maintenance. I know what you're showing, Johnny B. Those are my partner's products.
My volume was turned down, so I haven't been hearing me. These are great. I love these. There's your partners. Good job, because you know what? A couple little
Yeah.
Philly birds in there. Check this out. Open it up.
Yeah, it's freeze-dried candy.
Ah, they just melt in your mouth. I
Yeah,
like
they disappear. They sell those for, I want to say $6 for 10 milligrams.
yeah, whatever.
Ouch. Yeah, no, I was with them 2 days ago. Those are my partners over at the old Embark facility. So they're canning up they're brave. They created a woman's brand and they called it High Maintenance. I was like, damn, you guys are hardcore with the high maintenance, but I think there was a cultural miss there because they are Chinese and I don't think they caught it the same way as I caught it, but I was like, look, it's a nice brand. They're doing interesting things.
Tasty.
Yeah, yeah, a little tuna can. Those little cans definitely keep things fresh, but wow, it's like still so much like waste for like a small piece of candy with 10 milligrams to have an entire can with a lid and a
It's fully
The
recycled.
overuse in the cannabis industry of products for viability of what they're using is still way off the mark, and I learned that. No offense to Dr. Mark, I learned that when I was at the visited one of the packaging universities and was discussing, how much and how much we use the product, yet the containers are left around forever, and that's a huge problem with the cartridges. There's a huge problem with the plastic waste, mylar waste. Um, it's a dirty, open fucking secret that nobody wants to talk about, but we all have to have child-proof containers for some reason by law. And so we have, dabs that will go through in a week in containers that will last 10,000 plus years. Make it make sense, people.
I got a box of them right here.
it just won't make sense, dude. It
We're
can't.
stoners. We should
I
figure this shit the fuck out,
Well,
man.
I remember when I first started, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, going around to the stores in Canada and seeing how much garbage was all around the store. Just exactly what you mentioned, from Mylars to vape pen cartridges to boxes to like all the packaging. I was like, fuck, can't you just throw like it would be next to a garbage can. Like they wouldn't even be able to like, oh, I can't even throw this away. I'm just gonna throw it on the ground. And it was kind of the first bit of a
Have you
bummer when I saw, all of that just sort of
ever seen
plastic
a
waste.
container just like thrown somewhere on the side of a road? It's one product, one package that doesn't get thrown away. People keep it. I'm just kind of
Well,
laughing.
and it'll be around for 10,000 years, just like all the other
Dude,
packaging.
Full recyclable stuff.
funny
That's
that you bring this.
be recyclable. That's the best thing about it. Just like the Lush packaging, they have a recycling program. So long as we match and have these same
But
programs.
here's my problem with recycling programs. Recycling doesn't work and nobody does it. And if you have a product that cannabis has touched, you're not allowed to recycle it. They don't let you recycle it again for use. If resin was in it, it gets treated like this, the deal in Canada at least. It's this weird, like, oh, resin went in it. This has to be destroyed. Now, here in Canada, we had a group that went and GPSed. They bought a bunch of garbage, like truckloads of it. I think two or three semi-trailers worth,
I
big
just that
cubes.
was crazy.
And then they just put the GPS tags in all the plastic garbage. And then they followed it to an incinerator, one truck, and then other trucks ended up going to the Philippines to be incinerated. And they had to fly there and find it on this island where they literally opened it up and it was Canadian garbage. It was literally garbage from British Columbia with brands from, and it's like, so there, a lot of these groups are saying that recycling is and I used to work for a recycling company back in the day. My buddy Jeff started one of the first companies in Canada. It was Blue Box. And this was in the 80s. He started the Blue Box company and he was the first one. And all the Blue Boxes today come from his Blue Box company. It was very successful and very big. But I remember kind of towards the end him being like, it's not viable. You can't make money doing this, especially because everything you collect can't be recycled. So you collect everything and then you take it and then you break it down into the different, I guess, qualities. And the highest quality one can be recycled. Now, one of the things we found out early is that if you don't rinse out the recyclables, none of that stuff gets recycled. If there's food in it, right? If there's little bits of food inside the glass jars or whatever, it doesn't go into the recycler. So I definitely think whoever just said we're smart, we're stoners, I think it was you, Etienne, we can figure this out. I agree. I totally think we're smart enough to figure this out. I think that the people that are alive on this planet right now have the brain power to do it. It just doesn't seem like anyone wants to spend any time doing something that has no profitability or economic viability, right? It's hard. Like it's already hard to just, fight for what you believe in,
Well,
to the
well,
point
right.
of, go
Well, and
ahead.
people are saying, "Oh wait, but what about hemp plastics?" And yes, there are a few hemp plastics, but you know what? There's not a recycling place that will recycle them or deal with them in any way, shape, or form,
No.
unfortunately. On top of that, they're still using conventional polymers with this sort of stuff. So it's a step in the direction, but far from the steps that are needed. So,
Yeah.
just wanted to
And,
point
and and
that out.
I'm not the guy either that says, "Oh, you don't need plastic." I'm like, we use plastic so much on a daily basis. It's utterly and complete. Like none of us would even be on this show right now without plastic. Literally, the housing of your computers, so much is made out of plastic. I love the idea of creating a more sort of, environmentally friendly plastic, at least one that could break down and not be toxic and live forever and get inside our brains and other things. But yeah, it's a tough one, man, because I used to be a big proponent of recycling and I still do it. My wife has me bring all the stuff down to the curb and I separate everything. And then I watch them all come and grab all the bins and just throw them all into the same truck. And I'm sitting there going, those motherfuckers are taking that to go be burnt in the Philippines. Like it's not even going. And the craziest thing, this documentary or whatever, this group that went and did the GPS thing, they were saying that it was in the high 80s of materials that go to be recycled that are not recycled. It was like less than 10% of shit that actually got recycled, which is better than nothing. I'll agree, but it's still a bummer. Still feels a little bit like we got sold something that maybe isn't living up to its name.
Dude, I was just driving home
I
to get
digress.
on the show, and I look to the right, I see this white bag of a logo that actually I created, and I sure as not just was like, "Er!" Got out of the car and I picked up the package with with the exit bag in hand, chocolate bar ripped apart, not in the package. The big bar like this still, not the chocolate bar, the packaging like this big with the exit bag still stapled with the receipt on it, just on the side of the road. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I picked it up and was like, first of all, I was like, this guy couldn't have thrown this out, and then second of all, I was like, my old company, like, like what?
Well, it's, you know what? Everything we do ends up in one place, the garbage.
I mean, it was pretty trash anyway. So the whole
Holy
experience,
shit.
like, I was like, of course, like it's this label, it's everything here. It's funny you brought this up because I was thinking about it. I was like, I think we've all probably on the show here and others out there listening, we've all tried to implement some version of something that could be recyclable or something towards the end of that. And we've all hit a wall or maybe even a red wall with, a little anger in there because you realize that the industry doesn't support this, right? It's like an industry thing. It's bigger than all of us. It's larger than one's thought and one's capabilities at that point. And to what you're kind of getting at, Marcus, is there's no infrastructure that makes dollars and cents for those that the powers that be that want to spend money on this to even do it, which is kind of insane. I mean, it just highlights the insanity in the cycle and the system that we've put ourselves in that we seemingly can't break. It's like
Well, it goes
it's
back even to the product. We're
I
sitting here
know,
talking about like the
dude.
organic living soil expressed by the plant versus like let's just stack a bunch of terps and thiols and make you know what I
Dude,
mean? And then I'm
yeah,
sitting here the whole
dude.
time you guys are talking and I'm like, wow, safety, toxicology. I'm thinking toxicology, dude. The two most popular drugs on the planet are alcohol and radioactive cigarettes. So like just that's the bar that we're dealing
Yeah.
with. So it's like at that point it's like, dude, you could be selling radioactive terpenes
You're
and be
totally
like,
right.
it should be fine. Like I'm sure people will love them.
They
We've
taste
talked
good.
about this before. Well, it's the taste thing. Like I think a lot of people have blown out their olfactory to the point where they don't perceive these flavor profiles the same way that maybe some of us that have been like refining our palates and maturing our palates over decades do. And so when they smell and taste a botanical terpene, they're like, oh, that tastes like pineapple. Like they're actually, like I've seen it, I've witnessed it. They get pretty excited that they can and I'm not talking down on these people in any way. I think I would be the same way. If I smoked a bunch of cigarettes and didn't really have my olfactory intact and I couldn't really taste and smell the way I once used to, and then someone gave me a joint with raspberry, cherry, whatever, I'd be like, wow, like you could taste that on your lips. You could take, like, now, because my palate is so refined, that just tastes like some strawberry flavored Lysol disinfectant to me. It goes, I can't even inhale it. Forget about it. I was in a car once where my friend Allison lit one of these. It was called Peach Rings, and it was peach flavored joint. And I'm telling you, dude, this was peach flavored Lysol. She was so mad, she threw it out the window. It was like a $25 joint. And I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, that is the most toxic thing I've ever smelled. She said, that is the number one selling joint SKU in Canada. That's what that was. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, what is it? She's like, floor sweepings, distillate, and botanical terpenes. Number one, number one SKU in Canada. So I don't know, man. Like, we
Question.
are the anomaly. Go ahead.
No. Is it because so I was thinking about this when I was asked to make all these vape stuff in the last 5 years, and I've been like kind of studying, and I was thinking about it. What is it because kids don't, or people, and I'm going to call you age group, just people in general have not experienced the volatile organic potential of the plant's potential for them to want to taste something? And then when we give them the something, it's like, oh, we're just going to give you Farinones, strawberry Farinones, and all these other things. And yeah, you'll get some
Yeah.
thiols, some sulfurs in there. We'll throw it in there for good measure. And these 12 terpenes that make you feel like you're getting a version of OG Kush. What is it? Is it Juul that did this to the consumer? Is it the lack of quality that, like I said, with lack of
I
understanding
don't
what the
think
plant
so,
is trying
man.
to
I think if you made this available to people, even affordably, a
do?
huge percentage would still choose botanical terpenes. They'd still, no matter how, and I don't know why that is. I really
Is it
don't. I think
candy?
I
Is it
mean,
going back to like psychology of like as a kid, I like grape, like
I
Welch's
think
grape
it,
juice?
I think it goes
It,
back to price
okay.
and THC percent. Like my daughter, she works at a dispensary
Totally.
and she sells a ton of weed every day.
Mhm.
And I asked her the other day, I said, so is it still, I want the best deal, highest THC for the lowest price? And she's like, 100%.
Right.
That's what they're looking for all day long. So it really becomes this thing that we never want to talk about, which is affordability, the money
Right.
aspect. Like, what do
Right.
people have on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis to be able to spend on their cannabis? Because I no longer exist in the reality of, oh, anyone can grow cannabis.
Right.
Fuck. You know what? Growing cannabis is kind of hard.
Yeah.
And I would say that not anyone can grow cannabis. I have met many people who cannot grow cannabis. I might be one of them at this point in time. Now, I've got my six plants out on the deck and I'm doing the best I can, but yeah, it's not so easy for just anyone to produce exceptional quality resin. It's easy to plant plants and bud them out and get something, just like it is easy to go to the store and buy something. The harder thing to acquire is what you, because I felt exactly how you felt, Colin. I always thought if I can turn people on to this, no matter what,
Right.
this is what they're gonna want. This is what I felt like it was what everyone deserved. The most perfect expression that the plant could do, isolated away from the plant and given in a pure form, still encapsulated in the resin heads. That's what I felt the whole world needed to have. And I just had to swallow the pill that that's not like, why would I be so like, what am I, a narcissist that I just thought like the whole world would want what I want? Like, no, like I learned that people like BHO and people like joints and people like Irv Rosenfield like shitty joints. We had him on the show talking about his bunk 300-gram joints that he smokes monthly. And, myself and Etienne and Todd and probably many of the rest of you were like, no, we're going to get you something special, brother. And he was like, guys, this is special to me. I don't need anything. And we were just like glitching out. Like, what are you talking about? Like, of course you need, just let me, no. He's like, I can trade on these joints. I'm smoking these joints. Everything's perfect. I can operate. And I do think that there's a real value in that. I think that it hasn't quite happened yet through the federal legalization. I think people are terrified of THC, a lot of people that don't smoke a lot. And I think the biggest part of cannabis has yet to expand and explode, which will be, the Napro type 2 plants that have no THC, but all the flavor profiles and THC profile plants, type 1 and 2 plants, maybe mixed that have that under 10% or under 12% THC, but with all the flavor profiles. Because I hear people say it all the time, dude, if weed wasn't so strong, I would smoke that shit all day long. Well, companies are
Yeah.
going to figure that out, that if you reduce the THC percentage and you don't turn everyone into fucking zombies, that they'll smoke a lot more of the product. It tastes so good. Like for me, dabs, I
Yeah,
only stop taking dabs because I end up like so high, like I just took a rocket ship to Mars, that
totally.
I don't need anymore. But you don't think I wouldn't take like a tasty GMO rip that just like imagine dabs that don't destroy you. Like there always will be dabs that do
Yeah.
destroy you, but I believe there's a place, and I kind of
Huge
learned this
market
from
for it,
giving
dude.
micro dabs. What's that?
There's a huge market for it. I mean, I get asked all the time by people in New York, like, can you make something that's less strong? I mean, people
Yeah,
like older, there's a whole world of users that want that. I mean, and honestly, respectfully, there's some varietals, like if you went back in time, that's probably what they would produce by design, right? Like low THC, high spread of other cannabinoids, other acid forms, and
Harlequin.
yeah, things like that. I mean, that's a good example. Exactly. Harlequin, big shout out to all of that, and big love to Wade today, everyone. Thinking of him. I think, the plant those types of plants, and the things that you're touching on, Marcus, is the type 2, type 3. Yeah, I think I think you're right. I believe in that. It's interesting. I'm kind of like yourself. Like I've landed at this place where there's so much. It's like if you talk about one thing, you have to talk about another. It's just so much to talk about. But I think there's no wrong. Like it's always what's right for your journey and your path. And some people want something that is going to take you to the moon. Others are going to want a morning rip that's going to allow them to be inspired for the rest of the day. You know what I
exactly.
mean? And but there's a huge subclass of people that I keep meeting like all the time. Are like, yo, if you could just make a X, Y, and Z that would allow me to have it as a sippy cup, for lack of better words, they would want that. So, and that's new to me because, I think all of us, we're all used to just like, how strong can you make it? I think that's kind of been the MO our pretty much our whole career. It's like, how pure can you get it? But here's a question for us. Is it purity that's going to produce that, or is that letting the plant kind of do what it does, and could we really isolate something like that, and make it a commodity? I don't know. That's a whole other convo, but I know Mark, you're I can hear your mind's working right now.
Well, we should
Yeah,
also bring
taking.
in Caleb Chen for this discussion. He just finished his
Yeah.
paper, and that's a
Bring him
fascinating
in.
paper. I want to share with y'all. I don't know where he is. He's just got done with his master's, so he's enjoying summer somewhere. But his thing was talking about how he interviewed some of the top 25 growers, et cetera, that are living, and how the discussion of gatekeeping and how the gatekeeping that's been happening genetically, right? And I think that needs to be discussed as well, because where we are has been to gatekeeping that got us here. And what you're asking for, Colin, is something we've already taken kind of away from ourselves, is that biodiversity already through pre-selection due to already cannabis breeding gatekeeping. So that again is another conversation, but one I think would benefit if we brought in Caleb, and I'll reach out to him at some time as well, because I think it's a valid conversation that needs to be had, because even Sam himself spoke very eloquent on how he did so and how his selections were. And I
Yeah,
also, through those conversations, kind of go, well, wow, I would really have liked to have tasted his savory skunks and some of those others, because he went toward the sweet side, right?
right,
Well, I would have loved to have tried some of those other genetics that he selected out, right? That we don't
right.
have access to. So just a conversation.
Well,
Well, I'll tell you, Rob used to have those. I'd go visit Rob and he'd just have like a cardboard box with like some spears on it, and it was just different flavors from the greenhouse over the years that kind of maybe would make it or maybe wouldn't make it. And those were unique times for sure. Just being it and not really even knowing, not putting the whole picture together, but kind of having an idea that this was special and that it was like, oh, let me see what you got there, like, oh wow, different profiles. Someone earlier, I think it might have been Bingo, saying in the chat room, oh, I'll never get to smoke Sam's hash. And it kind of struck me like, oh yeah, like there's no more Sam's hash, we can try to recreate it, but Sam collecting all those seeds, Sam growing those seeds in the greenhouse, Sam processing those flowers, cleaning that resin, that's just something that is now legend. It's no longer a reality in that sense of like, finding a kilo or something of Sam's super cleaned, perfect. Sam was Sam. He always smoked his best. So, there's his best went fast. Rob, on the other hand, always saved. He always saved his best, and Dave just thought that was hilarious. He's like, I'm always smoking my best, and Rob's always smoking his worst. He would say when he break into a big fit of laughter, because Rob liked the idea of saving. Oh, I'm gonna save my favorite ones. Sam was not. I'm the same way. If you ever want to smoke with me and you open my jars and I pull out like 5 or 10 jars, open them all, find the one that has the least amount and smoke that one because that is the one that I liked the most. If it's down to nothing, that is for sure.
so question for the group here. So, we've been talking a lot about like how things are cheaper, and then, I was thinking about your comment that Sam made to you, like, as much work as these guys are going to do, I can still grow it cheaper. We, I feel like we have to get to that place, right? If we're going to truly make it the world of call it plant chemicals or plant-based chemicals that are only coming from the cannabis plant, right? And Dr. Mark, I don't know, this may be a question for you. Do you feel like a chemical conversion can still, at the end of the day, still kind of backdoor this whole thing? Or is it, imagine us like growing, for instance, the cost structure of hemp with drug cultivars, right? Like hectares, but then processing that into hash or rosin or whatever you want, right? But taking the care that you would need to take to grow high quality cannabis well, right? It seems based on what Sam has said that it is possible, yet we've, in our lifetime, we're struggling to see that happen, right? Or wrong.
Well, I, I don't know. I would think that again, it's two different markets, right? If you're just pursuing the active ingredient THC, you can do that a whole lot cheaper than getting good genetics, getting a license, growing plants, and extracting that same molecule of THC is going to cost you about 10 times the amount can't compete if you're just talking about the active ingredient itself.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
Caleb.
it's more than that, but yeah, good call. Hey, Caleb. See you, man.
Yeah, I sent Caleb a text. I was like, "Oh, we're talking about Caleb's work. We better." Plus, I like the conversation, the gatekeeping conversation, the genetic gatekeeping conversation's always been one that I've enjoyed. I took a beating for giving away gate-kept genetics, and I would do it again and again and again, no problem. Do I want to give away someone's hard-earned work that they've actually? No, 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 no. Of course not. I'm more upset about the people who like to rewrite history, like to connect themselves to a genetic that's not necessarily a true connection, and then take it for themselves and then gatekeep it. Those genetics I give away freely to anyone and everyone. And I had this conversation with a local sort of cannabis guy. I won't name his name and throw him under the bus, but this was about the Congolese back in the day, and he said, "Well, not everyone deserves it." Like not everyone deserves it. And I said, well, I think everyone does. I do think everyone does. And I kind of used this experience to him. I said, what if, you got a guy who wants the Congo, but you think he doesn't deserve it. So you don't give it to him. But I think he does deserve it, and I give it to him. And then he ends up giving it to a family who uses it for a young girl who has like Dravet syndrome or seizures or something. And now it's gone through maybe someone that you felt wasn't deserving of it, but it got to someone who was. I say everyone is deserving, and just share the genetics. If you've put a ton of work in, I'm not talking about like true breeding and like actual work that you've put into a plant, and you've spent serious money and you've done it. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what the majority of everyone else is doing in the industry with cultivars, trading them and sharing them. And if you can buy seeds, for God's sakes, it can't be that necessarily gate kept. But, at the same time, I do have an appreciation for Johnny at Huckleberry Farms, and he's found this very unique novel cultivar with this Celine diene terpene in it, the whitethorn rose. And he's made some crosses with it, but he's also holding that closer to kind of try and figure out and understand what it is that he has. I'm not against that. Like I know the guy's going to get that out into the world, but I definitely am against borderline gatekeeping of genetics. That it's like, how hard is it to just let someone take a cut off of your plant? Seems like a reasonable thing. Here, it's always the fear of, oh, they're gonna ruin the market. And I'm like, ruin the market? Like, what do you mean? Well, they'll grow it. They'll grow it so bad that no one will want to buy it. It's like, well, how's that going to affect you? The only way I could see it affecting you is if they grew it way better than you and offered it on the market for a cheaper price. Is that what you're afraid of? Because I would say that the customer wants both of those things to happen. A better version at a cheaper price, that's like you're speaking the customer's language right there. Whereas, the people who are feeding the customer, I guess that's not what they want to have happen if they're not growing the most exceptional quality cannabis. Maybe they're worried that people are going to grow better cannabis and put them out of business. I don't know. I think it's a medicine that people need access to, so trying to keep it from someone seems like a slippery, dangerous slope. If you call yourself a cannabis activist, then you should probably be sharing all of your genetics with those who ask. Just my 2 cents. I could be wrong.
So Caleb,
Right.
brought
Right.
you on here because I actually dropped your thesis and we started talking about gatekeeping. So I'm gonna put you on the spot if you got the sec. Why don't you introduce your thesis, talk about it if you want to, share it as much as you want. But I found it very fascinating. It's a discussion that I and others have had over the years, and I'm glad that you made your thesis because I think your work is important and groundbreaking, especially for cannabis people to realize.
Thank y'all very much for this opportunity. The thesis is called Post-Prohibition Changes in Cannabis Genetics. And with the title to a study like that, you might expect it to be, genomics testing, to have some sort of like definitive answers from like a quote unquote hard science end. But the degree that I was doing was a public sociology degree. And at Cal Poly Humboldt, there's actually 3 layers of like, you can't touch cannabis at this school. You can't even touch hemp at that school, which is, different than at other schools. And given those limitations, what I did for my study was I interviewed 25 cannabis breeders formally, and anonymous ethnographic interviews. And, over the 2 years while I was writing this, I also talked with hundreds of cannabis breeders and people involved in the cannabis culture, through groups like this and also on the ground at events. And really, the thesis is kind of a compilation of things that I learned from people within the cannabis culture. And, over these last 2 years, one of the main things I've seen is that, like, in the academic literature, people are kind of dismissive about the entire cannabis culture. And I think that is a big mistake. And I think that it's honestly like led to a lot of reinventing the wheel, at all these ivory towers. They've been doing stuff and it's all stuff that's been done before. And they aren't even going to credit the people that have done it before. And, I've honestly, in this thesis, I pulled a lot of punches that I wanted to throw. And, there's all sorts of stories that people in the know, when they're reading this, they might realize, like, oh, I'm talking about this person that stole this from that person. And we're not talking about genetics here. We're talking about ideas, and we're talking about credit, and we're talking about things that matter to the cannabis culture, which I think one of the things that matters most to the cannabis culture is that range of effects. As we talk about, gatekept genetics, in order for a genetic to be so desirable that you then have people trying to gatekeep it, that is a progression in how we as a culture view the cannabis genetics. If we go far back enough in time, seeds came with the weed and there weren't rules with what to do with those seeds. And that's kind of the starting point, that if you go far back enough, anyone that identifies as a cannabis breeder is working with specific building blocks. And, as everyone who's ever played with Legos knows, sometimes people with similar building blocks are going to end up building something similar. And at that point, like, do you even have a right to gatekeep it if, as much as you think it's yours, like, someone else could make it without ever having interacted with you? So, there's lots of things that can come out here. And since it was a sociology thesis, I honestly like focused in on that sense. And the 3 main things that come out in the thesis are information on like becoming a cannabis breeder. And then there's also a elucidation of like a craft cannabis breeding ideotype, because a lot of the breeders that look down on cannabis breeders, they think that crops need to be bred to the point where they're only harvested by tractors. They look at, hand trim as something that's just a waste of time. They look at curing as something that's just a waste of time. They look at all that as, superfluous stuff that criminals do. And they think that the future industry of cannabis is going to be something completely different. And really, I wanted to highlight that cannabis culture has an idea of what they're doing. It's a well thought out idea. It's an idea that is grounded in science. It is based in the scientific method. It's observational science. Calling it just bro science is like, it's insulting to all of us, honestly. And yeah, that's kind of the gist behind it. It's a big thing. There's lots of things in there, but that's the through thread.
I love the
Alright.
conversation, dude. That's awesome. That whole concept is you could really extrapolate and go deep on this conversation, and it's interesting because, there are just the way you said, that could someone have taken similar seeds and created something without having ever met you? Like, where is this ownership that we require as human beings, where we're like, hey, that's mine. I did that. It's like, yes, I recognize that for sure. And On the flip side of things, it's interesting that the plant came with seeds back in the day, and there were no rules. Like you said, it's just like, oh, you just plant the seeds. We're a funny lot, human beings. We are a funny lot. I it, it it's you really have to think deep on it to get a clear view on it. And I certainly don't, I don't exclude myself from those people. I've been a hypocrite in my life and I've done things and maybe, claimed ownership over things that I shouldn't have back in the day. Now, as I get older, I'm had many, many more pieces of humble pie that allows me to be like, okay, well, you know what? I now I say it as I got to play my part. I got to be a rung in the ladder. That's how I say it when people are like, oh, wow, you did this and you did that. I'm like, really, what I did was I got to be a single rung in a really cool ladder that is the cannabis culture. For me, in the innovation of hash making. I certainly didn't come up with anything all by myself or do anything all by myself. All I really did was let my passion ignite a bunch of people. And for that, I get my own. Do I get a Hollywood star? No. I get a rung on the ladder of the cannabis culture, which all of you have rungs on the ladder of cannabis culture. And so it's nice. I don't know what it is, being a human where we feel we need to acquire more or get a higher, I don't know what it is. It's a strange thing, especially with something like cannabis that seems to humble you out and seems to, create an atmosphere of more like conscious thinking and, like paying attention to what's right versus what's wrong. And yet you can still get sucked into that. This
Yeah,
is
well,
mine.
it brings you to the realities, right? And to the, the good points, but also to the horrors, right? So I'm kind of curious, Caleb, what horrors, what disturbed you in your research that you did? Because again, it's sociological, so you're dealing with all kinds of people with unique situations, and you're also in the Emerald Triangle, so you're really, I mean, you want to talk about immersed in it. I mean, there is no more cannabis saturated historical place since post-prohibition in the United States, right? From its, its mistrust of outsiders to, to the, of course, the plethora of cannabis culture that exists on the mountains there. So I'm just kind of curious, when you're doing your research, you set out with your own eyes and your own vision. What disturbed you?
The thing that most disturbed me, um, is honestly like the outlook for the future. It kind of ties into what y'all were talking about earlier. I got to catch some of it and really like, you know, there's a bunch of cannabis products that are available right now around the country that are essentially the new version of Marinol, if you think about it, right? You got single cannabinoids, maybe two, maybe three, maybe four, all of them derived from CBD distillate. And then you have a handful of terpenes, maybe one, maybe two, maybe three, maybe four. And like these are the products that people looking for a THC effect might use medicinally or therapeutically, but they're not whole plant products and they're missing, you know, millions of potential interactions that could constitute the entourage or ensemble effect is the way that I see it. And like at this point in time, we don't have all of that research to be able to tell. But, anecdotally, there's plenty of indication that really like the whole plant therapeutic is what's needed. I always think about like what Wade Laughter would talk about how like even when using whole plant therapeutics that like for 8 children that one plant might only work for two of them, even though they have the exact same diagnosis technically. And like it really like that's at the far fringes of like medicinal use of cannabis we're talking about the whole plant therapeutics of like particular cultivars not being enough and like needing to create new whole plants that can, help the other 75% of those children with that specific thing. And like that is something that, you know, THC beverages that are essentially liquid marinol with a little bit of lemon flavoring is not the people who are selling, making those things are, they don't give a fuck about the medicinal value and the fact that there's going to be parents that go buy that drink to give to their kid thinking that it might have some effect. It's sorry, that's the part that really irks me. It's that like this classic battle is actually being played out like right now, at Total Wine at the gas station versus the actual dispensaries where you might be able to buy a whole plant therapeutic. Those are being taxed to hell. And even within those stores, the available diversity of plants is at an all-time low. So that's yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened in Canada. We had a big medical sort of platform. It showed up well before legalization. Massive companies got behind it. There was some incredible products available. Like Whistler Medical had 18 to 20 different really nice like live bubble hash tinctures that they were making through Whistler Technologies, with the equipment, and taking wet bubble and then basically decarbing it into a plant fat. And there was just all, people were so happy. It's like, oh, I have 20 to choose from. It's like incredible. And I'm telling you, the minute recreational came in 2017, all the people that had been using medical as the shield to protect them with their business, which, and I'll go as far as saying it was pretty much most of the medical growers in Canada as well. I hate to throw them all under the bus, but I don't think I knew a single one that actually grew cannabis and didn't sell it. Now, I'm not saying that they couldn't have done that. It just sucked that they had to use patients as their shield to do it, because you could just do it with just in the black market the way everyone was doing it. But what everyone did was, and of course they did this, and they're doing it in Australia right now, and it plays out everywhere. Anyone that has half a brain that doesn't want to get busted for their weed consumption is gonna go get a license to protect themselves from being busted for weed. Unfortunately, it undermines the whole system. And what happens is when recreational comes in, the entire bottom falls right out of medical, and every company that was fulfilling medical prescriptions and needs. And keep this in mind as well. Can you imagine dealing with a recreational cannabis customer versus a medical cannabis customer? Medical cannabis customers are nightmares compared to a recreational person that's just going to come into a gas station and pay 20 bucks and buy. You're never going to see that person again. A medical person, they're going to send you 100 emails. They're going to want to talk to you. They're going to want, this is like their life. This is very, very important to them. This isn't buying some recreational product at a gas station. And because of it, it takes an angel like Etienne or Hillary Black to be able to deal with tens of thousands of these people. This is not easy to deal with. You have to have an incredible amount of empathy and compassion. And I hope people realize I'm not blaming patients by saying they're nightmares. They're living in a nightmare. They've got this disease. They've got this. They need to get the good medicine, and they're pissed. Do you know what I mean? They're not stoked. They've watched this all play out. They've watched everyone use them as shields, and so they're a little bit upset as well. And so, when companies come along and say, "Oh, we're going to start a big medical thing. We're going to get a call center," they quickly realize we do not have the tools to deal with these people. This is too difficult for us, and they just jump into recreational, and they leave all of those medical patients hanging in a big and brutal way. And it's happened here in Canada.
Yeah, and the thing that you kind of striking in terms of genetic diversity on the shelf, that's also a major issue. And I often wonder, these these nurseries that provide these clones, can they do a better job at limiting things or maybe working with their clients more to design a menu rather than to have this catch-all net that they all buy from? Because it's largely driven at least in California, most of these people don't have the infrastructure to even have a nursery, right? So they're buying clones, right? So at the onset, is there something we can do there to provide, I think like Hayes Valley and what they're doing over there is really nice because they have a big spread of genetic diversity that they can offer, right? Where perhaps other nurseries are the ones, 6,000 versions of runts and gelato or whatever crossed into itself is really what they're going to offer, and no shame and shade on that because that's kind of what lemon cherry gelato is what sells in that particular realm. But we also have to ask ourselves like what's important, and I think in that's another thing like we have to remind ourselves is are we going to be herd mentality, or are we going to have a real like idea and vision for this thing? And I think, largely what we've seen is those that have a vision from it are overtaken by these other people that have other interests, right? And they're, we're seeing a lot of these elders that we've watched kind of design this thing that we're, standing on the shoulders of kind of go away, and I think we have to remind ourselves where we came from sometimes. So I think it's self-reflection is maybe the word I'm looking for.
Well,
Um,
your elders created this so that you would create a different direction. We
sure.
never expected what we created to be the end all. We expected it to be a piece along the way,
Yep.
but we expected y'all to pick up the torch and to change it. It's not changing the way that we like it or want it to be.
Yeah.
However, you're right. We were so busy doing the other fights, right? I've been doing this 26 years and I've been in 22 of those. I've been involved in legal fights, two of them against my own government. And
Sure.
I've won all seven, but those financial distractions, early before those happened, what it allowed me to do? Oh, it allowed us to self-fund testing, right? And do important
Yep.
things, right? We try to do things proper and philanthropically, right? We tried to lead by example, but the entire industry ignored giving away free cannabis and investing into your communities and investing it into testing. No, they rather go to profits and profit models. And we tried, but we failed as well. So we are relying on the next generation to make it better,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah, I think it starts with diversity, though, is what I keep going back to. If we can just start there, we can at least start to say, hey, these guys do this well and that well, and yeah, grow each other's varietals, but maybe don't make it your life to grow all the same stuff, because that for better or worse, it becomes a shelf full of the same stuff, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So that's I don't know. That's what a lot of the stuff I think about commercially is like, how do I, like when someone asks me for clones, for instance, for their farm, I'm trying to give them a menu, of access to things that maybe others don't have, right? Because I think that for them, it'll give an opportunity to grow things that are really unique. Like there's this one varietal called egg roll that we have, and it's a really great ChemD cross. And it's unique, you know what I mean? And no one else really grows it out here, and it's stuff like that, you know, if you can look into certain subclasses of varietals, you can get a better performing plant that still hits these flavor notes that are maybe older, but brings in a newer sweets category that you didn't have within that profile itself.
Yeah,
So I think searching
absolutely.
for new stuff is what I'm getting at. And like I encourage everybody to pop seeds as much as they can. Work with your nursery. Be like, hey, I have these seeds. We don't have space to pop them. Can you pop them and start them and then make moms out of them?
Mhm.
So we can at least, run, some test runs to see if we like it. There's ways forward. You can work with your partners around you to build a better vernacular. I think it's just we've got to start thinking and talking to each other about this, because the markets are becoming stale in those ways. At least from what that's, I just feel like every market's kind of growing the same stuff, you
Yeah.
know.
I'm glad you mentioned Hayes Valley because they're definitely an example of a nursery that's like really pushing the envelope on this. And like the one way that I quantify it is like I've asked every nursery essentially like what's the longest flowering thing that you have
Yeah.
on your menu, right? And like Hayes Valley carries the longest flowering, but
Hmm.
even them don't have anything. They don't have anything under 12 or like even under 10 normally.
Damn.
And
And
like
I'm thinking of the Soma 27 week haze that I smoked with them
yeah,
in Barcelona.
there's no nursery that would carry that. And so like even in a Hayes Valley, like their new blue screen, right? Blueberry, A5 Haze, and Thai. But when you're making that combination, even from scratch, and you've got these things that are supposed to take 20 plus weeks, and you only select the progeny that flowers in 10-ish weeks,
Right.
you're dragging all sorts of other genetic linkages to that shorter flowering time with it. And I think that's ultimately what's happened at every nursery, at most, breeders' vaults. And it's what it's gonna take is actually like to bring it back to the medical. There was a club, right, in SoCal back in the medical days that, specialized in these longer flowering things. And supposedly they were paying $9,000 a pound for Cambodian landrace that took 24 weeks to flower, right? That was $9,000 a pound to the farmer in a time when the average pound price for a 12-week cultivar would have been like 4,500. What it's really going to take on the market is buyers that are willing to pay twice as much for the flower that took twice as long to grow. And like there are consumers like that. There just aren't any mandated middlemen that are willing to take that hit to their bottom line. And all the legal structures have multiple mandated middlemen in there.
So
The
this is
East
a good
Coast
example.
has it.
Yeah. So like we have a whole, yeah, there's like a big, and it's funny because it's like there's this a big, I'd love to maybe get Piff Ghost and a couple other guys on the show. Maybe I'll talk about that with Marcus at some point and get some of these guys that, I grew a lot of haze coming up, and a lot of Piff and a lot of different things, and a lot, this profile is very nostalgic. There's a nostalgia to it on the East Coast, and it's really cool to see the resurgence of it because this flower is like it's it's very fruity, it's very hazy, it's nice. It's really not super heavy. Like I don't get it's not the effect is very uplifting, and that effect I think this varietal takes probably 12 plus weeks, maybe 14. I'll have to get Ask Piff Ghost on what the Piff S2 does, but this is in demand out here. Like people want these profiles, and it's really nice to see that again because it's that and gas right now. Like gas is like sour, and anything OG, deep OG is really popular. The sweets and the candy stuff is kind of falling out. So it's really interesting to see some of the flavor profile trends, how different they are on the East Coast. But hopefully the newer markets that are opening up at Mass will pull people out of the woodwork that have some of these older genetics in their in their collection, because a lot of this stuff on the East Coast, we have to remind ourselves, is still frowned upon like heavily. We didn't have a culture out here that supported being open about cannabis growing and processing and even just talking about it in general. So, but there's really talented growers all across the Eastern Seaboard, from Maine all the way down to Florida, that hold really special and unique genetics that are just not out into the wild. So have no fear, there's definitely unique diversity out there. We just got to get, much like myself when I was kind of coming out of the woodworks, I was really nervous. I didn't want to like share a lot of stuff. I was nervous to give things out, but eventually I just got over it. I remember Eric 77. Actually found the envelope and the note that he wrote me. He's like, if you want to save a strain, give it away. And that's like the most important thing. In 8077 made the cal or found was I guess responsible for the Calio cut. So that Calio cut that I got from him came with that note. And I remember I gave it away immediately when I mommed it up. I just gave that clone out to like as many people as I could because it was, it was unique at the time. So it wasn't a whole lot like it. But I think genetic diversity is a big one. Is like, I don't know. I just that key word there is like diversity matters, pop seeds, find new stuff, try to create it if you can, say, hey, maybe grow a few things that are longer flowering time and see if you can get more for it and create that value around it. But I mean, sour is like respectfully 72 plus days. If you can really take it all the way, you go further than that. Most people don't realize that. They're like, well, why is it not sour? Well, if you take it before then, it is not the same plant. It's not, it's flat. I see a lot of stuff taken at 10 weeks when it's like, yeah, it may have that nose on the plant when it's just starting to like feel it, but you need to let it completely fill out and finish all the way because you're just going to have flat soda at this. It's like Sprite that's flat, it just has that profile to it. There's a lot of that out there. So, that's the thing is like maybe they're not used to letting things go that long, but um yeah, there are some breeders that are definitely their whole catalogs are these older. That's the other thing is like it's not like this is not available. I have a whole stash of stuff that's in Pelican cases of a bunch of older varietals that, that could be brought back to life. I think there's a lot of that as well, just locked in someone's vault. So pop seeds, I think that's the bottom line. So when you were doing your research, did you sit down with breeders that were working, really trying to refine the line down to like 8, 10 weeks? Is that what like the goal for pretty much everyone that you spoke to was, or what was the goal of most of these breeders?
Guys, so I'm gonna let you guys go. So I'm gonna go spend Happy Father's Day with my dad. See everybody. My dad. You meet everybody. This is everybody.
Nice, John on Hash Church with John.
Yeah. Go
John.
enjoy Big John's
John
Day.
Senior.
Happy Father's Day.
Johnny Father Burfello.
So, anyways, guys, we're gonna go out and have a great day. Happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. I'm gonna go spend a day with my dad. So, peace, guys.
Happy
Have a good
Father's
one,
Day.
Johnny. That's awesome.
Guys.
Have a good one, Johnny's.
Ah.
Want to say anything, Dad? What? You want to say anything? You want to say anything? No. No. Okay.
Perfect.
Guys.
Perfect thing. I love it. That was awesome. John's dad. That was so good. John's been gatekeeping his dad. He's been keeping him from us.
Now he's sharing them.
Absolutely.
So to answer your question, Colin,
Yeah.
I talked with like all types of breeders, like even breeders that like don't identify as like marijuana breeders and only work with hemp, only under, USD following all the USDA rules, all the
Got it.
way to like, yeah. And then and then there were like generally three groups that I identified, either like preservationist breeders, head stash breeders, or commercial breeders. And definitely commercial breeders are all, 8 to 10 weeks or straight up, they're moving on to autoflowers, right? And
Right.
then like for head stash breeders, they're mostly interested in like preserving a specific, usually cultivar that, they've experienced and they need that high for their medicine cabinet. So it doesn't matter what the length of the week is, they're the ones that will take it, the sour D all the way to 84 days.
Right. Yeah.
And then like the
That's like you've
preservationist breeders, will work the whole ass thing, and they're even looking to
Yeah.
breed like perennial cannabis. So like 8 to 10 weeks is like that's their no.
Right. It's interesting, because I would imagine we're kind of selling ourselves short. I'd love to see a study done with longer varietals, what chemicals they're able to produce over a longer set point versus the shorter, and does that matter? And how that data would look. taking like, for instance, a hybrid category just to kind of cut it down the middle. Could you take something and, pair it with something that goes to call it 18 weeks versus 14 versus 12 versus 8? Because I did some stuff where I took autos into a grape high line and then brought that back into a regular line, right? And I ended up with like a 6-week finisher. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, right? But it had great resin structure, and I thought at the time, this is like 10 years ago when I messed around with this. Um, it was really interesting because I had this idea that now it's like, could you remove leaf, because it was very leaf to calc ratio was very heavy. It's like wondering if you could breed, let's say an outlier like the Australian bastard, which has a very, very sparse leaf structure back into that, and then design something that would be maybe more desirable for resin production and then hash making. So because it doesn't have the leaf, right? So, you know, doing all that work, right? Substance to say, it's very blind, right? You're really blind because we don't have the data behind all these constituents. Like, autos, for instance, we don't know a whole lot about them. We know it's a mutation, right? But we don't know how to really control these things, and even marker-based breeding can't do it. But what I'm getting at is that, you know, looking at a 6-week varietal like that, does it sell yourself short in terms of THC production? When you start to look at what autos have kind of turned into today, like Night Owl Seeds is a good example. Their lines of really kind of, they're pretty great. Like they look great. I've seen some of it in person. I've never ran them, but I've seen and heard a lot of people, really pleased with it. Are we bottlenecking the chemical, potential of the plant is the question, the overall question I'm asking. And with the triangulation I just did there, is within that, doing that type of breeding line work, is it gonna remove things from, our, call it our palette of tools that, we may never be able to go back to, you know?
Hasn't
Yeah,
it
that's the
already?
fear.
I don't
That's the
know.
fear.
I think about it a lot because, like, if you have people like Shanti Baba in the world, you have like whole continents of people that have collected seeds. There has to be somebody that has 100 pack or something with a,
A
percentage.
100 pack is way too small, I think is what
Dave,
David
Dave has
Swanson
a
would
hundred
say.
thousand of the
I'm
haze
just,
crossed with
I'm just
haze
throwing it
seeds.
out there. A 1,000 pack. I don't know, even a 10 pack. Shoot, I mean, of all of some of these things that we could maybe try to bring back into existence.
Mhm.
Because look, we're within 100 years, right? Let's think about that,
Yeah.
right? We're
Well,
not.
Dave has a kilo. He had a kilo before he passed away of haze crossed with haze seeds. It was like close to 100,000. It was a little over a kilo. It was 1,350 grams, and I think 80,000 seeds per kilo for that batch. It was the batch we were going to use in Jamaica for a breeding project that just never panned out. The fence to go around the 20 acres was going to be like $600,000 US or something. It was just an outrageous cost, but those seeds definitely still exist.
Yeah, well, they're case in point there, right? So, I think it's just we have to find, the problem I think is, going back to the commodity aspect of where we've arrived. We've got to find a place for it within that, right? Unfortunately, because like all of us, we want longer flowering varietals that taste great and feel great. And that's what all of us grew up on, I think. At least I know I did. And there's it's funny because when buyers think of a feeling in cannabis, it's usually this like downward effect. Otherwise, it's not it for them, right? Which is really fascinating because that's one small subset of what the colors of this plant can provide. But I often wonder, how we arrived there. I do think about that a lot in the spiritual sense. You know,
Absolutely.
we always love to think that we have such a broad world around us of tools, you know, because so many people are growing the plant today, but we've also have to remind ourselves that to your point and the research that you've done, it really highlights the holes that we've created. Hell yeah. What is that, Marcus?
That is
That
actually one of my Bubble Man brand jars from Michigan that I just slapped a bunch of my rosin into because I was like, man, I want to be able to share my jar. I have a whole box of jars here, but 2 months I should have my waiver and I should be able to come down to the US. And if that's the case, I'm coming down.
dude, well, your comment, we're hanging the moment that happens.
Dude, I can't even believe it, dude. I'm like it's
Bringing
kind
you
of
to New
surreal.
York.
It's
Coming to
kind
New
of
York.
surreal. Yeah, we'll come
You
to New York.
Hey, get you a slice of pizza.
Oh man, I'll definitely get me a slice of pizza. I hope we're gonna hit a big rip right now.
Yes.
That's kind of what I'm hoping. I'm gonna hit this. The rosin I had was I believe it was the Neptune, and it was from Kenera out east, Quebec.
Mm.
Company Kenera, which to this day is still like I've never seen a bigger facility produce more fire than that facility. Sam always said
Nice.
it. Sam always said that he could grow like the highest quality resin in like fields. I had never quite seen that size of a facility produce that kind of quality, like the quality that I would sit around and smoke all night, like the quality that I'm choosing to smoke right now. Over a bunch of different six stars and over, I have like 10 or 10 different things in my stash right now. But this is very, very nice. It's very nice. So I hope you will all join me. What are you smoking on there, Caleb? A pivot?
I got one of these mocha pivots, and I've got
Ooh.
some country rose in there. So get that Selena Dine.
Ah, yes, the Selena Diane. We have been talking about that quite a bit lately. What a unique. I think truly the future for the heady cannabis consumer lies in aromatic volatile compounds, not in cannabinoid percentages. Maybe I'm totally wrong, and maybe we'll hit some novel and unique cannabinoids down the road that will be super important. But really, right now, I just feel like novel aromatic volatile compounds like selenodiene in the whitethorn rose.
I think it's the blend, bro. But I'm with you. I think it's
Yeah,
the
but not having it, that changes the blend. Of course, it's the blend, but when you have something that everyone's like, this is different, you look
I
to see
know.
what the different thing is. And apparently, with Johnny's Huckleberry Farms, the difference was Selena dying.
Let me tell you, man. I'll tell you. I remember it like I wanted to text you at the Legends when they submit when Kyle from Heritage submitted it. I mean, shout out to Kyle because they really helped bring that to everybody. You know, he recognized it. I think Bell was the one that recognized it more importantly, and worked with them. But dude, I mean, look, it's so unique and it's really it's well done. It's so perfect. It's like so unique. And I immediately just voted it like the top, just like immediately. And I was in the contest, you know what I mean? Usually you try to put yourself in there and I never vote for myself. And I really feel like they deserve the light just based on how unique it was. And that resin that plant produces is really just it's like it's signature. It's like this, it has the ability to be um its own category, you know?
Mm.
And I think that's how unique it is. It's literally like nothing else. Um
Well,
it's
I
not
think
like the
especially because you have it in a place, when we had that whole conversation, which was a great conversation, because when Johnny came in and was talking about it and the Phytofax and SC Labs, Chimera was like, "Hey, I helped with that work at NAPRO, and he was kind of like, hey, what are you trying to say? But then he realized like what Johnny was trying to say was like, look, it's great what you guys did, but you really stuck it into this like 12 terpenes. And what I had was outside of that. So I had to go elsewhere to find that. Phytofax is amazing. It's such a cool thing. But can you imagine how complex that'll be able to get one day as we learn more and more and more about the aromatic volatile compound universe that is present in cannabis? And I do believe that it is a universe, probably much like what Mowgli created with Phylos. If you could have an aromatic volatile universe that you could go into for cannabis with cultivar names connected, I think that would be pretty cool. I
Yeah.
want it. I want to navigate that right now. Maybe I'll go ask ChatGPT to make it. I'm
I
just
think that's what Abstract was trying to make. I think that's what
I love it.
I'd love to ask where they're at with that. Because that's what they were presenting at, I believe, MJ Biz that you saw, Dr. Mark.
Well, like a phylogenetic tree or something like that.
Yeah, that's connected to the volatile organic compounds, right? And it kind of follows the phytofact thing and takes that to a even bigger level in terms of pairing the compounds with the varietal.
Yeah, they're just a lot less in concentration and much more difficult to sort of quantify and measure.
Yeah.
So it's not like the terpenes, which are there like in single digit percentages. These are there in fractions of a percent because they don't
Yeah.
need to be there a lot.
Well, Grok said you might want a phylogenetic tree of organisms. Example, plants, bacteria, or fungi that produce specific volatile aromatic compounds, with the compounds a note annotated on the tree to show which organisms produce them. That's kind of a crazy concept that there could be bacteria or fungi on cannabis producing the aromatic volatiles, part of the profile that we enjoy. What if it came from something separate from the plant itself? But yet it came from organisms living on that plant, like bacteria or fungi. I've never had that thought before. Holy shit.
Well, no, well, think about it. Well, you sort of have though, because living soil, there's a paper published that we shared it on the show before that talks about that. It talks about the influence of the fungal network
Of
and
course. I totally understand
how
the
that
influence.
translates to the
I've never thought that the fungus itself could be producing part of the profile, not facilitating the plant to produce the profile, but
Oh, got it.
producing the profile itself, much like a bacteria that could be on the plant producing an array of like I've never thought of that, and it might be wrong. Maybe it's not happening at all, but just from reading that real briefly, it seems like it could be something. Very
No, it
interesting.
does. It is interesting. It's a good thought. Huh. Yeah,
Interesting.
well, if
Yeah, I
it
mean, a couple of years ago, El Sole published a paper, I want to say like in 2018, where it was entitled New Cannabinoids Discovered on Cannabis. And it should have been titled New Cannabinoids Discovered on Moldy Cannabis because the compounds that they discovered were all fungal metabolites of THC and CBD. So,
Interesting.
yeah, a hallmark sign of fungal metabolism is they start putting hydroxyl groups because they basically have oxidases that start oxidizing these molecules, putting hydroxyl groups there and turning it into basically food, right? So, a lot of these compounds that are found on moldy cannabis are just fungal metabolites and not actually made by the cannabis plant itself. So,
Interesting.
super interesting, right?
Yeah, it gets you thinking
I'm sure it does
anyway.
the same. I'm sure it does the same to terpenes too,
I mean,
why
listen,
wouldn't?
I have never in my life considered that anything other than the glandular trichome head was where these compounds were being produced. I always understood that there was a relationship with the fungi that helped express a greater percentage of these compounds in a sort of higher caliber manner, if that can even be quantified, just like the smell of a living soil, flour and hash is just so
Right.
rank and dank. But I never, ever, ever considered the idea that like something else living on the plant could be affecting the profile. We know with thiols and thiolates that you don't need a lot to shift a terpene and terpenoid profile from, strawberry shortcake to loaded diaper. Hey, thanks,
Loaded diaper.
Caleb.
Sure, it's
Yeah, no Scatol today.
No Scatol today. That was actually
Shit
Captain
terpene.
Underpants mention for those of you that have kids and have to read Captain Underpants. Loaded Diaper is, of course, the Big Brothers band. The Big Brothers band, that show. See, we're doing the music history here, Caleb.
Nice. Always can bring that in anytime into any cannabis conversation. So easy.
Right? I mean, listen, it's a big thing to be a part of. Music is a very listen, I was extremely excited the first time when I first came out with Bubble Hash and was doing the bubble bags and all. It didn't take very long before I thought, you know what? I think someone's gonna like maybe write this into a song. And that did not happen. Nobody wrote it into a song. It was like 15 plus years went by. No one made a song. And I was like, damn, like, I really missed that one. Like, I thought it was going to play out. I thought maybe because I remember I met this dude, Mike Dean, who's like a big music producer guy. And I met him like through maybe even Instagram or something. No, I think I met him even before Instagram, before 2010. But yeah, he wanted to check out bubble bags, and so I ended up, sending him that, and he would send me like unreleased like Scarface and different like Tupac and like people, hip hop artists that he had produced, and I was like, damn, is this guy like for real? I didn't really know he was for real back then because I guess he wasn't really as like now he's outrageously big, like he's produces for some of the biggest artists on the planet and whatnot, but. When I kind of met him, I thought, this is my in, this producer guy. We're gonna get like Melt and Bubble, and we're gonna get all these. No, nothing happened there either. And then it wasn't until really the Jamaican artists kind of caught into it. And my buddy Tim Dubbs, who's a producer in Jamaica, he did the Sweet Trichome with Lutan Fyah, and he did like three or four other songs with like John Mason and a couple other sort of smaller reggae names that all mentioned Bubble Bags and myself. And then Richie Spice ended up doing a song, and it got to a point where there was actually some songs about it, but I thought it would be more prolific than it was, to be honest. It really goes to show me what a very small, finite community the bubble hash world is.
I suspect that there are some French and Spanish songs that have some mentions that maybe haven't popped on your radar yet. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I would be like, you'd think they would send that to me for certain. I remember when someone sent me a King of the Hill thing, and it was like Bobby and his dad, and they were trying to get rid of the fish heads that were in their forest. And they had to like, these guys were all camped out and on tour with fish. And they quick, Bobby, grab the feather. It was like the conch at the Lord of the Flies. You had to have the feather to speak. But they cut to this scene with this hippie guy sitting there and he's holding the feather and he's like, I want to give warm hugs and fuzzies to the Bubble Man for creating unlimited barter. And then Bobby and his dad kind of show up, Hank, and I was like, what the fuck? Like people kept sending me that. They're like, is this you? Is this you? Is this you? And then eventually someone who worked on the show was like, yeah, that was like a little homage, dude, like on tour. What's more valuable than Bubble Hash. In a world where you can trade anything for anything, what door does Bubble Hash not open on tour? And I was just like, fuck, man, that's so cool. Get to be a little part of culture there. But other than that, it's been pretty sparse, which is fine. Getting
What
a
episode
mention.
number is that?
I think it was season 8 episode. Like I always mix it up because I never watched that show, but either 22, episode 22 or episode 12. You could probably punch in season 8 fish episode, and that would also find out which one it is.
That's cool. Well, guys, I have to jump. I'm gonna go hang out with my little guy. Much love to you all out there. Much love to you
Thanks
guys.
for coming, Colin.
Of course.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Oh, we're gonna probably chill for another half an hour on Father's Day
Father's Day.
and then move on. It's a big day to spend with the kids. Although, Dr. Mark, your kids are older now. Do they still make the time and
Yeah.
come hang out with you, or are they busy?
I don't know. My son's in LA, and where's our daughter? At work. Oh, she's at work today.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? They become people.
They become people. That's right. That's what they do. If you're successful getting through childhood, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is the impossible job for sure. It is not an easy thing to raise children. It is difficult. And children don't really know it. And I say this slightly comedical, but it's like, when your parents are like, hey, little Billy, you're not the reason we got divorced. They were totally lying. It was absolutely you, little Billy. Kids make it hard to be in love with your spouse. They make it hard, and that's okay. I'm sure I did it to my parents. I'm sure it's the way it's supposed to be. But wow, the kids make it hard just to raise them. It's impossible. I think the payoff is watching your kids have kids. And then you just get to like go get the grandkids and rile them all up on sugar and then send them back to the parents and be like, here you go. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah,
Yes.
grandchildren are the prize you get for not killing your children.
There you go. That's fucking really frighteningly accurate.
Boy,
Holy
y'all are
Christ.
really selling dads today.
Yeah, but you know what? Some it's the weirdest thing, Etienne. Yet you would take a bullet for them. They create this energy and pride in you that you're just like you can't even understand. It's such a cool thing to create people. It's just impossibly difficult. I think that's the irony of it. It's supposed to be impossibly difficult, especially when they're that age, man. Little tiny kids. I think, and I've said this before and gotten in trouble, but it feels like when you're a real little kid, the majority of little kids are narcissists. And I think they're supposed to be. They just can't think of anything but themselves. And also, the love you have for them is so powerful that you can't help but shine it on them every time you see them. And if you think of just every time, imagine every time you walked into a room, people were like, oh my God. And just like, the most intense energy, the way you are with young babies, you got to think that that mildly warps us a little bit into thinking like, I should be getting this for the rest of my life. Like I'm amazing. Look at me. It's like, but there's a cutoff point where suddenly people look at you and go, oh, it's you. Hey, you don't get that same like huggy excitement emotion. So it's interesting. It
Especially the
is.
first day of school, the second day of school, the third day of school.
Oh shit. Tell ya. I'll tell ya. Well, I'm enjoying my watermelon and my tea on Father's Day. It's a beautiful day here in British Columbia. Seems as though might have to go for a little hike here later on into the forest. Oh, here comes Dragonfly Earth Medicine. I think they are in Berlin right now. I believe. I went a little early. How's it going, homie?
How
Very
goes it in Deutschland?
spectacular. Well, thank you. How are you feeling today? Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
I
Indeed,
think
to you.
you probably already said that.
Well, we say it every time we see a new father. We send, we send positivity to the fathers. It's not easy being a father. It's not easy being a man. I had this conversation with my wife the other day. We were talking about, I don't know how we ended up talking about it, but suicide came up. And I said, "Oh, do you know that men commit suicide at a much higher rate than women?" And she said, "No, I had no idea." So she Googled it and it was 4x. It was a 4x, 3.9 or 3.8 something times that men commit suicide for every woman. Not trying to measure importance by any means, but I would say in a positive way that if you're having any mental health problems and you're a man, it's probably best to talk to someone about that. Because although we love to push everything down and not always experience our feeling, I say our feeling because most dudes only have one. Forget about feelings, just one, a feeling. But yeah, it's good to have someone to talk to. It's not a sign of weakness to show someone that you need help or that you're in a bad state. It's actually a sign of gratefulness and gratitude to offer the opportunity to someone to help you. I know that Wade had a hard time with that towards the end. I tried to explain it to him that it's a gift you're giving, Wade, to allow people now to help you after you've helped so many. So if you can look at it like that, if you need help, think of it as a gift. You need help. I'm going to give this gift to my good friend and allow him to step up and potentially help me. Sometimes it's just as simple as listening to what someone has to say, letting them, have a little breakdown, get it out.
Yeah. Feedback isn't always necessary. Sometimes it's just a person hearing themselves talk about what's happening, which really honestly just kind of gives them their own insight, and just holding space, for them and that. And it isn't the easiest thing for men to do. And often it's like maybe a sign of weakness. Oh, you gotta, be able to deal with it. But it's really probably a sign of strength to show that you care enough to make a change, or that you care enough to reach out to your family and use the characters that are around you and the personalities that you surround yourself by and the family members that you cherish to give you, maybe some feedback, or again, just to hold space. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
huge
I think you're right. I think it is a sign of strength. I definitely
Mhm.
think if more people looked at it as a sign of strength instead of a sign of weakness, they'd be more likely to just be like, "Oh, fuck, I got people to talk to." Even if you have no one to talk to, crazy enough, sometimes the best person to talk to, if you
A
really
stranger.
don't, a stranger, dude, literally a stranger, just a
Yeah, I feel that.
stranger.
I feel that. I
Yeah.
also feel blessed to be a grandfather, and I kind of feel like I'm cheating. I'm like too young and healthy, and I cruise around too fast. I lift things. I spin my back fast. Nothing ever happens. I'm like, I don't know if that's grandpa stuff, but like, wow, like I guess maybe spring water and organic food and regenerative ganja, your own regenerative ganja out of the earth that you created, probably is good for you. It could
Guaranteed.
probably be
You could
good
set
for
the bar. You're setting the new bar for what grandpa is because why? Here's the thing.
you.
Grandpa shouldn't have to mean like old and decrepit and dementia and sick and like, oh, I went and saw my grandpa and it was terrifying. I was like, no, man, I went and skateboarded. What'd you do today? I was skateboarding with my grandpa. Yeah, we were on the electric skateboards, ripping around the seawall. It was awesome. Going like 40 kilometers an hour. My grandpa's hella cool. That's awesome, dude.
You know
They're
what's
great.
interesting? We were in Prague last time, and we were at the Vyšehrady Castle, this amazing fortress, and there's this super old cemetery there, and we were looking at the lives from the 1700s, and a lot of them were living 100 years.
Yeah, everybody
Old.
from the 1700s were living like 100 and 110 years, like normally when we looked at the gravestones.
And then
And then
you
it got
get to the
shorter,
18
shorter.
then the 1800s came, and then they lived quite a lot less in the cemetery. And that this is not like what humanity is. This is just what we witnessed. And I was like, oh, that's super interesting. Because I don't believe the myth that we always used to, oh, only live till 35 years old, and then we just died. And that's why modern medicine and good water all matters. Because we've already had good water and all that stuff and on the countryside. But The point I'm making is like when we were young, even because me and you both born in 73, we might have seen like a 55-year-old or a 60-year-old man being not super like healthy to cruise around on a mountain bike or
Dude,
a snow.
100%. Are you kidding me? 100%.
And now
Now
here
I have
we
friends
are,
that are like,
55.
dude, I have an 81-year-old friend who lives just down the street from me, this dude Wolf, and he just crushes it, dude. He's got this awesome garden and he's super prolific and he's got the best stories. He's an old mining dude that used to go set up mines in BC and build the whole town and the water and electricity and just like a real manly man from like the 40s or whatever. This dude is so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I think
Yeah, it's
also part of being young is like truly not understanding how old you are. Like I'm with you, gotta move the chair a little bit.
Sorry, we're making room for Julie from Skunk Magazine here. Come on, Jules. And
I can just sit on the edge here. Scoot over.
and
or
also
you
I'm gonna
share
say
chair.
gardening
Okay.
and farming for us is sort of like Groundhog's Day. Like it always comes every year, you know, and you have to get in shape. And I've been joking around with my friends, like, I want to name my next farm the gym.
yeah, that's good.
Because like, why go to a gym? If you actually have a farm, there's no need for it. You can put your energy into the earth, make good things happen, and come out healthy. I mean, this is an easy decision.
Dude, I will say
Yeah.
this, that since I started going to the gym, which is
Walking
really
up the stairs, and I was like, Josh is ripped. And Kelly, you guys look obviously young. Cannabis keeps us young, I think.
I think
yeah.
it keeps us
Keeps
confused
young.
as to how old we are too. Because I swear I'm with like 20-year-olds and I feel like I'm the same age. I don't
Like,
even
bro,
know.
what's happening?
And
We're
then-
20.
And then people will ask me my age, and I'm like, hey, I'm 55. And everybody's like, oh shit. No, I'm not. Oh,
Be
wow.
respectful. There's a woman in
Okay.
the room.
I get confused. I think that's
Yep.
part of the agelessness is just not knowing how old you are too.
Well, your soul is eternal, so
That's for sure.
no age.
Yeah, well, we're here in Berlin and all the festivities are starting tomorrow with the Women's Day. It's sort of an all-day Women's Day and Women in Cannabis. And then sort of everything just goes from there. There's cups, Skunk Magazine, Dragonfly Earth Medicine, and is involved in a ton of stuff here. And it's just really exciting. We've been all over the world and back, and we just literally like met here and then got on Hash Church.
Nice.
love
Well,
you.
we appreciate it. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will say,
Well,
Josh,
Yeah.
when you mentioned the gym and the garden, since I started going to the gym, which is really just my friend's garage across the street that's set up with some weights, I've been crushing my garden, dude. Like crushing. No electric gear at all. Everything's like manual, like cutters. I've been cutting like branches, cleaning out all my cedars that are like have overgrown so badly. Like I swear to God, I probably thrown away
core.
300 or 400 bags of green waste in the last like,
Your
you know,
core is
maybe
strong.
yeah, it's nice to be strong. My son got me into it. My son is a very like strong weightlifter guy, and I never weightlifted at all. But I have to say, it's important to have a strong core, like Josh was talking about. If you don't happen to have a full farm, because I don't, I just have a yard. The gym comes in very handy. It's definitely a good thing to take care of yourself. You know, they say as you get older, the thing that takes a lot of healthy people out is weakness in their core and legs that
Absolutely.
leads them to falling, and then they break their hip, and then they go to the hospital and never come out, kind of thing. So build your core, get
Yeah, I
strong.
think the gym is super important, and I see a lot more people than ever going to it. So I think that's super positive and really good.
I
And
mean, it
more than
doesn't hold a
anything-
candle to a farm. Like, definitely the amount of work that you do at your farm, just the amount of work that you were doing when your farm was almost burning down, dude, was like that was like an Iron Man challenge.
It
That wasn't
was
the gym. You're like, oh, we're
Iron
just
Woman,
doing
too.
some iron, yeah,
Awesome.
Iron
oh,
Family
absolutely.
Challenge.
The Iron
It
Family
was.
Challenge. Whew.
And it was just me, Josh, and Sky,
Oh
the
my
ones that
gosh.
pulled back because, you know, Sierra had to be with the baby away from it all. But it was just me, Josh, and Sky, sort of like the core family. And we were waking up at like 4:30 and we were working until way after dark in the, it was crazy because when the dark came is when it became terrifying, right? Like you can handle the daytime, and because BC fire workers and all firefighters, what a lot of people don't know is that they only work 9 to 5. So as
They're
soon
off
as
all
it's
night.
dark, they don't really, they're like, yeah, fire, you just take a break.
We'll be there at 6 a.m.
We'll be
What?
back. Just stay right there, fire. So during the night when there was nobody
Jesus.
around, there was no machines or anything, and the whole sky was just lit up with fire, it was when we were really running around. Super intense. Really feeling for everybody out in
We still grew super
in
good weed.
Canada.
Super good weed came out of that.
That's awesome. I was worried about the smoky weed. The fires 9 out of 10 times they smoke out the weed.
We had some of the best resin that we'd ever had, and maybe a little bit of that stress actually made it a little nicer without the sunshine. Maybe
Yeah.
the trichomes were larger,
That's
the heads were
miraculous.
way bigger, and
Yeah.
Our greenhouse covered it from the bulk of the ash, and that's for real. Like in
Yeah,
the morning,
we
we had
closed it
like
up.
black film on the greenhouse. But we were like a month before harvest, and the rains are what put the fire out. So the rains really just sort of cleaned the environment. And the weed just kept growing and kept consuming and transforming. For all we know, we got some extra volatiles out of it.
Mm.
could've-
Some extra
Well, that's what
thiols and
happens when you stress the
flavonoids.
plant.
Hopefully there's something good out of fires because there's plenty of them. And but I'm excited to see you, Julie, and we're going to spend some time. Tell us something about Skunk Magazine and what's going on,
And going on.
and
Well,
the guidebook and just all the
yeah.
stuff.
This woman is killing it, guys.
Oh,
She
thank
works
you.
all the time, never stops on this incredible dream for the whole
We're a little
community.
worried about her.
Yeah, I'm Mother Earth's bitch. She's definitely has, strong marching orders for all of us activated souls around the planet. That's my whole thing, is that she's propagated consciousness and she's activated millions of us, and now we're all doing her bidding. We're her daughters and sons, which you guys have always embodied. But it is an exciting moment. Thanks for having me. First of all, it's exciting. This is my first hash church that I've ever been on.
Get her
You've been
email,
trusting
Marcus.
me with a good time for a long time. And now I'm here, so I'm feeling pretty stoked about that, number one. Number two, we are in an evolutionary moment with Skunk. We are launching a new free magazine, the Cannabis Guidebook. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time. It's a free mag that is for the direct consumer, for the end user, for the head, or for the people that are curious, the people that need to learn and want to learn. Because Skunk is really to teach people to grow, and it teaches you to grow, and it shows you fire genetics, and it's a lifestyle magazine, but it's still really focused on growers and hash makers,
Community.
and technicians, and so that's Skunk. So I'm really excited about this mag because it's embodying everything that we embody with our devotion to Mother Earth, which, if you guys know, I coined the term in 2013, the Green Renaissance. But it was this guiding ethos that we are in a second Renaissance. And it's so many different evidence of that across the planet, even amidst the darkness, that in fact, the darkness is a part of pushing the change, is what I believe, that the shadow and light work together in union to birth new realities in the world. And so we're traversing it. And so that's been the guiding ethos for a long time. And now with the Cannabis Guidebook, we can really bring that out fully. And what's fun about it is that I can be more agile. Skunk has been traditional newsstand. This I'm going to be able to take anywhere. So we're taking it first to Berlin, and it's exciting. We have Be Real on the cover. We're celebrating Barney's Farm collab with Be Real, and what they're doing with the work that they've done with bringing the Insane OG back with their line work and inbreeding. And so that's exciting, and it's filled with the global community. And that's really what the Cannabis Guidebook is going to be a lot about, is we're global. And I think that we're going to keep being more and more global. Those of us here on this call have been global for a while, Mark, obviously, you have been global. And so, yeah, for me, this is a moment where I can go to Berlin and do an incredible magazine and really amplify all of my partners globally there. And then we're going to do it in California in September, launching a free magazine there at Hall of Flowers, and they've backed that version of the magazine. It's going to be the official show guide. So it just feels really exciting to be more agile, be able to go at different locations around the world and do these books for the moment. And it's relevant for the moment because it's basically amplifying all of my partners, and we're storytelling together, we're synergizing together. And that's what it's about. It's about that, for me, abundance mentality, that we create synergy, we profit share together, because these ideals are, for me, they need to be grounded in reality with excellence in business. We've got to prove that we can do this and that we can have this conscious commerce and
Sacred commerce is
Sacred
often what we've
commerce.
called it in our circles before.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's what this is about, is that it's going to be relevant for all of us, and it's going to give to all of us, and it's going to help also protect and honor what we're all trying to do. And that's what I'm in service to. And so, yeah, it's an exciting moment. And I launched seed sales as well last year. And I'm doing that in the US. Now we're getting ready to launch seed sales in the EU. And it's another evolution. I'm really just listening to Mother Earth and Plant Spirit guide me on how to evolve Skunk so that we can continue to do education for many years to come. And I don't need to be so harangued with sponsorship dollars or kind of the old model of how I was doing things. So it's been a big change, and it feels really exciting and good. And yeah.
And those of you all who knew Skunk before, when it was John and Julie, now it has done incredible ascension from that time period. So a lot of the work that Julie's put in, I want to say like the last 7 years, 8 years that you've been putting in, and now full ownership of that in the last 4 something years.
Yeah, 7 years. John stepped away about 7 years ago.
There you go.
And I signed a contract to buy it out from him.
And
The
she's
other
just
owner had
taken
left
it.
like 10 years ago.
And it was out of Canada originally,
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah. And she's just taken it and turned it into real community. So anybody who has the opportunity to go online and look at the online Skunk or check out the magazine, it really is absolutely talking about our culture. There's a lot of people in there talking about practices and genetics, legacy stuff, and a lot of historical stuff. So it's been really fun to see you grow, Julie.
Holistic health.
Yeah, a lot of holistic health. We're going to be working a lot on that.
And if anyone has like content that they think is valuable for the magazine, I would imagine you'd be open to that.
Oh yeah, Caleb's written for the magazine. Come back.
What's up, Caleb?
Yeah. Definitely come back, Caleb. And you should be involved with the Cannabis Guidebook because you have some different focuses that I feel like would be really lovely. I think that for me, especially like in California too, it's, the end consumer is still getting, to me, very left out. We're very insular. The heads speak to the heads, but then all the newbies, they got to kind of futz their way through, or the bud tender that is talking to them, for whatever angle that bud tender has, it's like, that's not good enough. And so the Cannabis Guidebook will have a marketplace section where there'll be like a QR coupon code ad, so locals or tourists can pick it up, and it's actually a tool, and they will actually read about a company and go in and buy that. And that's what's missing, is that, that connection where Culture used to have it. It was kind of a throwaway magazine, but Culture, before High Times bought it and killed it, had that component where there were coupons or there were ways to get to know the companies beyond just a little feature that people kind of read. You read a feature, 2-page feature on a company, doesn't mean you're going to walk in and then buy that product. It could, but So I feel like there needs to be something that supports craft brands and hash makers and farmers more as a tool. And then there's going to be a Michelin section showing the best in show. There are going to be classifications and just helping the end consumer to pick this up and maybe become more knowledgeable about the flour that they're going to imbibe or the hash. And I just feel like we got to keep bringing the education. You know, in the green rush, there was a lot of opening up of the market, but then not education to go along with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that left kind of an empty place for a lot of people, not us, but people, you know, moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, people that we want to adopt cannabis as a lifestyle in whatever form or fashion and help many more millions of people get off of pharmaceuticals or grow their own cannabis at home,
Or grow
like
their own-
tomatoes,
or grow their own.
grow their own. That's, I mean, Skunk is selling seeds, but we're selling seeds with the magazine. And the whole point is that people can grow their own at home. Many more millions of people can grow their own medicine at home. And that's what
And
we
we're
wanna
also going to be
see.
talking about healing yourself at home too, is because I think a lot of people in the world have lost faith in, you know, unfortunately, our
And the-
medical system
in
right
humanity.
now. And a lot of people talk about going to the hospital or going and getting misdiagnosis or getting wrong medication. It's just going on and on. So us to be able to take our own health into our own hands, which is what, you know, we've been doing as a family for a really long time, Marcus. I know you have been too with Shar, 100%. But I think that education towards our own health is really what, you know, the cannabis is leading us to. She continues to push us towards being better, not only as a community, but as individuals.
And it's also the biggest FU to the system to be healthy and independent from what they
Yeah.
want you to be a part
Yeah,
of.
yeah, that's what I'm doing. It's like the biggest activism. Well, we are all essential, you know, because the biggest activism is people healing themselves.
Yeah, I'm
and
ready to be
growing
a
their own
fucking
food and
riot.
medicine at home.
Yeah, I'm ready to
That's
be
the
a
best.
fucking
Exactly.
riot right now.
We can't and let us not forget the males. We keep calling her she. Man, those seeds can't be produced without those males and that male energy. It's a dioecious plant. It's a male and a female
is.
plant
Well,
that
and it's
really,
sacred feminine and masculine, Marcus. Agree.
absolutely,
It's in union.
absolutely.
And part of the Renaissance, I feel like, is the feminine coming into union again with the masculine in our world, because both are sacred and equal. And we want to see more of that.
That's true.
That's why I've always said I'm not a feminist in that traditional sense. I'm an
No.
egalitarian because we are sacred and equal. And that's what I believe.
Well, and it is true that the female flowers that we are smoking that have the medicine in it, you are smoking a feminine being. And that is true. You know, of course, in order for it to become a feminine being, there has to be a masculine involvement. Come on now. So that is really important. But the truth is that when we're smoking this medicine, it is a medicine of the feminine. And I'm not saying just she. So when
It's
I
part that
just-
that part of it is
Well,
feminine.
and
It is,
masculine
it's
gender
true.
is feminine.
yes,
Is masculine.
100%.
That's what I feel like in the Renaissance too. These ancient understandings that, you know, they knew in ancient Sumeria, for instance, and many other different indigenous cultures and sacred esoteric practices around the world. They knew, like in Tantra, well, Buddhism, you have the Yab Yum or the there's
The
another-
lingam.
no, it's not just the lingam, but it's the why am I blanking? But it's called Yab Yum, and there's another name for it. But it's basically the masculine and feminine in eternal coitus.
Mhm.
And that's us. Like, that's me, that's you. This is what I
Yeah.
believe.
I do too.
But it's the idea that when we're in our true alignment and we're on our soul path, that we are balanced also inside with our masculine and feminine. And then that union inside of us is our awakeness, it's our bliss. Think about it. It's our power of creativity. And it's because inside of us is that sacred womb and that light of the seed inside of us. And it shows itself in all these different ways, in our
Right.
work, in how we do relationships.
Mhm.
I like what you were talking about the other day, where the egg chooses the sperm.
Yeah, isn't that cool? So there's this new study that's been out, and it's pretty amazing, is that we always thought, oh, it's the fastest
The
sperm
sperm just makes it
to
and
the
it
egg.
gets in.
It's the fastest sperm to the egg, but what they were recognizing is that one egg can have many sperm around it, and there will become a degradation from the inside
Of the
for
wall.
one particular sperm to come through. So the egg is actually choosing the sperm to come through. It isn't just
Which
the
is-
fastest or the most resilient or
There's
anything like that.
sentience.
Yeah, sentience and coming together. I just really love that. And when we're in true balance, we're in our masculine and feminine.
And I would just add one more thing, which is it's us talking a lot right now. So here we go. But when the masculine and feminine come together in the ganja world, like you conceive hemp, or you see like the seed, the oil, the fiber, and that's what comes together when the masculine and feminine
Yeah.
live together and
Yeah.
they grow and they create seed and
births
so we're
all of
always
these.
talking about, oh, I gotta have hash, I gotta have flowers. That's amazing how it's one, slice of what cannabis has to offer.
Right.
And when you are looking at the full cannabis picture, there is a really good representation of both masculine and feminine in there, which is nice.
And I think you get way different high off of plants that have seeds in them than plants that do not. I truly believe that we haven't even really unmasked what, the differences is there, but it seems like when a plant gets pollinated and gets seeds, it's just a different high.
I wonder if there's some science we can put together on that, Mark.
What do
Like
you
what
think, Mark?
happens to the cannabinoids
What
when the
happens?
seeds are in there?
Glandular males. Have you ever seen a glandular male? Males that produce glandular trichomes. This is what DJ Short used to create some of his little creations. The
Yeah.
glandular male. I first photographed one with Dr. Atomic. I went to Dr. Atomic's place years ago and photographed his Cambodian. He had a Cambodian cultivar he brought home that he was hitting with his Northern Lights and a bunch of other things. And he had this glandular male that he was using. And he was just like, man, I'm telling you, this is the secret weapon right here if you want to produce some really beautiful genetics. And it was the
It's
second time I
done.
had heard it. It was the second time I had heard it. First was from Dan, DJ Short, and the second was Doc Atomic, who, gosh, he must be well into his 70s right now as well.
Definitely.
Shout out to Doc Atomic, wherever you
Big
are.
up Dr.
Shout
Atomic.
out. He always
Yeah.
has such good energy.
And
Well,
back
I
in
was
the
I was with a bunch of the old deadheads in Eugene,
Mhm.
all the great, that's where you're
Well,
gonna tell the
DJ Short
story.
was out of Eugene, sort of, the blueberries were everywhere.
And I was talking to a bunch of the Grateful Dead family members out at a picnic out in Pleasant Hill. And they were all trying to get Sunshine to grow a big patch for them and make sure that she seeded it. Because they didn't want to smoke the weed that didn't have the seeds in it because they liked the old school high that they were getting from the seeds. So I really wonder what kind of science. What do you think about that, Mark? What do you
That's
think about
fascinating.
like
I wanna study
terpenes
that.
changing or anything?
Well, definitely, it's been known that when seed production occurs, that cannabinoid production goes down. A lot of energy goes into producing embryos in the plant. But I think that whatever you do to the plant will affect the high. If that makes sense. Everything seems to affect the high. Like earlier, Julie was talking about stress increasing. What an interesting message for the cannabis plant to send human beings that stress and adversity might not be such a bad thing for bettering you as a human being, and that,
Bravo, Marcus.
trying to create an environment that is like safe all the time isn't adversity and doesn't feed your soul and doesn't, bring you to that maybe that next level you're looking to get to. So
Oh my
interesting
God,
message.
I gotta speak to that because being 40, I'm 48, almost 50. And I've reached this new level of accepting everything as it is.
So Mark
And I
has been
spent, fucking my 30s fucking fighting against everything. Like, oh no, it shouldn't be like that. This shouldn't be like that. No, this is like, and that's all fucked up because it's like everything that's happening, especially the shitty things, are like the greatest treasure troves
Of lessons
of
and-
everything we need when we accept it and we work with it. And then we also ask spirit, 24/7, I'm asking and receiving messages. And there's this asking you shall receive, and be guided on how to get through this shit heap. And then heaven's gonna rain down on you. That's what I keep finding. It's like, wow, I'm just accepting everything. I'm just working with everything as it is. First of all, that's way less stressful. And then realizing that everything's happening for me, that in this universe, everything's happening for us, not to us. We're not victims, we're victors. And that it's just if we find why it's happening for us rather than fighting it, then we get into the treasure. Then it's like treasure troves, and it's what I find. And it's revelational. I love living this way. It's the way to live for me. Yeah. So
Less
good call,
opinion-
Marcus.
less opinions,
Good
right,
call,
Marcus?
because that is so true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's time for a bong rip, actually.
Does anyone have any in Berlin? Because we don't have any.
Try. I got my
We're on
Spectrum
something
oil.
Strassi. Come check us out.
Damn, dude. See,
Anyone
that's
who's
why
there,
I
we're
should have
taking a
been there.
drool over your guys' hits right now. That's all.
Actually, we're trying to meet up with Green Maze and the High Secret Cup family later on today, and
Okay.
maybe there'll be something going.
Gabby and Ty, they do the Secret Cup. They're amazing human
Isn't it
beings.
legal in Germany?
It is, but
Yeah.
you have to have a prescription, but it only takes a minute over the phone to get it. And supposedly they can bring it to us within 20 minutes, but I've heard that it's all Canadian mids.
They don't have weed stores. Like it's not like
They fucking push their fucking Tilray.
I don't want Canadian.
Aurora,
weed.
push their
Right.
weed all over. Europe. It's like, fuck you guys, man. Not only did you fuck up your own fucking country, but you're fucking pushing your booth weed all over the fucking world.
Hey, calm down.
Super Booth is a good one. That's why I
Super
put it
booth
there.
is different. Okay. Take that shit, turn it to gold. Super booth.
Yeah, there was a guy who had a QR code last year. Everyone had his number, and that guy would show up within 5 or 10 minutes. And people seemed to like what he had.
Here in Berlin, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
okay,
Berlin.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There is some. I'm being
There's-
silly.
there's tons.
There's some good
We
stuff.
just
too.
literally all got here.
Yeah, we
telemedical.
literally just
Telemedical is what they call it here, and you can order online in Berlin here and get weed to your house within 15 or 20 minutes.
or it's free.
Absolutely.
Wow, it's crazy.
Speaking of which, I have to go finish this fucking magazine.
Nice.
I
Never-
got
never,
I got several hours of burning the midnight oil till I get it done. We're down to the wire. People can still hop in though. So if anybody wants to hop in, it's 10,000 magazines. We're gonna be blanketing the garden and the show.
Mhm.
And I gotta fucking finish this now. So
Yeah.
I gotta cut, but this was so fun. And I hope, Marcus, that you would invite me on in the future. You guys
Yeah.
are all
Good to
great.
see you.
It was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. So thank
Love you,
you.
Julie.
Thank
Thanks,
you all.
Jess.
I'll have to
Awesome.
give her a hand later, maybe.
Enjoy
Yeah.
Berlin. Enjoy Berlin. Well, I've got another rip in me. I was gonna stop at 12, but maybe we'll go till like 12:30 now. I'm
So
certain
Dr.
my
Mark,
fa-
what do you think about that idea about seeds and seeded males
Seeds and
and
weeds.
what do you think about the high being different and it's something that people are searching for?
I don't know, like Marcus said, the plant's putting a lot of energy into seed production, so I don't know. I was in that discussion where you're talking about the egg selecting the sperm. I was kind of extrapolating that onto the plant too as well. And why do female flowers exude this wonderful bouquet of phytochemicals, like, is it looking for the right what is the evolutionary reason why this phytochemical pathway evolved itself? in cannabis. It's very,
And is
very
it the same in humans? Because when I Googled what Kelly had said, it said recent research indicates that eggs release chemical signals that attract sperm and can influence which sperm successfully fertilizes the egg, even if it's not from the intended partner. This process, known as cryptic female choice, allows the egg to potentially select for genetic compatibility or other desirable traits. Interesting that it releases chemical signals,
yeah.
you
So a
know?
lot like terpenes, right? And so
Or roots.
It's sniffing on
All
a
isn't
this
whole other
language.
level, right?
the plant emitting compounds from its flowers to enhance its survival in a Darwin sense. And so, certainly, like attracting animals like humans, you know, is going to spread its genetic information into the pool. I mean, so like, is there again an evolutionary reason why terpenes also, I mean, the thing you could say too is that, yeah, there's a whole chemical universe of signals that traverse between plants and its environments, including the other plants and microbes that are in the soil. We were talking about microbes earlier. You guys know this in spades, right? Because the plant does not fix nitrogen, so it needs this symbiotic relationship with microbes that have figured out how to fix nitrogen, because fixing nitrogen from the air is not trivial chemistry. That's like archibiotic chemistry. That goes back to the primordial soup, right? There you go, traversing the fungal terpenome. So yeah, I mean, it's such a orchestrated dance between the plant kingdom and the fungi kingdom and all that the plant lives in, including humans. I think the plant has evolved, co-evolved with humans. At least we'd like to think we've co-evolved, right? Since the discovery of, or the reunification of humans with the plant from the cannabis deficient century, which was last century, right? So here we are, we're like, a quarter of the way through this new millennia, or this first century of the new millennium. And you remember, we traversed the millennium here, right? So, like, I have one kid born in one millennium and another kid born in another millennium. We didn't plan that, but that's just the way it is, right? And it's like, where do we go from here? I think living soil has got the key, but it goes back to, again, nurturing the plant and getting the plant what it needs in a natural, non-synthetic way. You guys weren't here earlier in the episode. We were talking about synthetics, because
I have a question about that.
There's a big discussion around synthetics here in the States, because there's a huge market that's opening up, like with beverages and whatnot, and they're synthetically making THC. They're adding lemon flavor to it. They're carbonating it. They're putting it in cans in convenience stores and gas stations and grocery stores and liquor stores. And while I'm in one way, I'm applauding the effort. I think it's cool that you can go to a liquor store and buy like some really good wine and some booze and some beverages for your party. And it'd be cool that if you could also buy cannabis-based beverages or beverages with cannabinoids for your party guests that don't like consuming alcohol. Now you're providing more of a variety for them. But yeah, so in one way, I applaud the access, but in another way, it's kind of scary, because these are really super big businesses. Big Beverage is all ready to go into cannabis, where THC nanoemulsion is just an ingredient, and it's just an ingredient that they can put in to their beverages, like a different flavor or a different color. and they already have the distribution network. They already have the deep pockets. They have the large warehouses. They have, control of a commodity-based supply chain. So yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I think in a way it's kind of taking away from the artisan flower of what cannabis production can be. But I guess, yeah, I mean, the almighty dollar and people wanting to get high have basically created this market opportunity for these synthetic products,
I'm gonna draw some lines here and maybe make a suit, or maybe it'll be a pathway out. But I'm really wondering something that we know about egg choices and women and pheromones and male pheromones is that we know that when a woman fucks with her hormones and she takes synthetic, birth control pills, we know that now she doesn't have the capability to choose her partner in the same way, nor does the partner have the same capability because she's not exuding pheromones at a certain time. She's now exuding something different. It's more from a synthetic, time schedule, as well as, it's basically a whole synthetic rhythm that you're put on. When we understand reproduction, it's actually very much so with the moon cycles and with nature. And so now I'm wondering, when you said, that really draws me to wonder about the cannabis plant and choosing her pollen. Do the flowers choose the pollen? And if they're going to be synthetic and they're being fed synthetic nutrients, they're in a synthetic environment, they are in a synthetic kind of medium. Now, what kind of capabilities does the plant have to be able to breed in a way that's actually healthy for her, healthy for him? I just think it's really interesting. So yet again, I'm going to come to that, an understanding that, full sun, not being fucked with and being, out in a soil environment probably is going to lend to much healthier, better genetics because the plants get to choose more than them being forced. So I'm just going to draw that. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like, of course, it would be true. But interesting, nonetheless.
I've been kind of envisioning this concept of the roots. We've been talking about, emitting and attracting. I mean, that's what roots do. So roots are emitting compounds at all times to attract the organisms that are proper for its growth. So
that's right.
Venture to say that the plant is gathering information and possibilities from the soil and preparing itself for the pollen when it comes. It's a deeper concept kind of, but I like that idea, that there's this, and it's taking in your energy as well when you're growing it. The plant's it's evolving in front of you. We're evolving in front of it. It's involved. We're all co-creating together to make the next generation.
And one thing that definitely is definitive to what Josh is saying is that every year we grow a tremendous amount of different varietals, all from seed.
And all hemp, right?
Yeah, totally.
Hemp.
So we grow a tremendous amount of varietals, hemp. And what's really interesting is every single year, all of them will be heavy on one particular terpene profile, no matter what varietal it was.
Or the source of the varietal.
Yeah, or the source of the varietal or anything. One year we'll have all skunk, even though, of course, the mimosa is going to have a little skunky in there, but it's going to smell like mimosa. But it's still going to have, or one year we'll have all fruit. Another year would be like, whoa, the terpinolene was really heavy. It came out in everything. Or, whoa, the myrcene really came out in everything, super heavy. And I believe this is environmental. It is absolutely soil-based. And the terpenes are definitely deciding something having to do with environmental, because it is crazy that, 1 year we'll grow all skunk and everything will turn out fruity, even though we might have grown a tremendous amount of skunk varietals. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that it's some type of, response at a genetic level, right? and that's ubiquitous from variety to variety, and the conditions that you're growing in, that the plant is emitting those terpenes and those volatiles for a reason, and not necessarily to fill our taste buds, right? So it's doing that in evolutionary pressure to reproduce. So that's the interesting thing, is to try to piece all of that together. I mean, I've always had the same curiosity about catmint. Catmint, similar to cannabis, exudes a essential oil in glandular trichomes, similar to cannabis. And those are the glandular trichomes that contains the compound, the beta-lactone, which is what is exciting cats, right? And so why would this plant develop this biosynthetic pathway to, and the other thing that's interesting about catmint too is its essential oil attracts lacewings, right? And lacewings will eat thrips, right? Because they're part of that. They're part of that insect food chain, right? So wait a second. So what you're telling me is that you have a mint variety that gets cats fucked up, that attracts lacewings. It's like, oh my God, it's like what don't we know? Like, it's interesting to consider again ayahuasca, which is, it needed humans to bring these two plants from the jungle together and put them together. So what other combinations could there be out there? I mean, if you know anybody who subscribes to Chinese herbalism or know a Chinese herbalist.
Me. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
My friend.
So to me, I mean, it's amazing, right? I mean, Kelly, is it right? I mean, there's basically a cure for everything, or for every medical indication, like if you have hives, if you have hemorrhoids, if you have inflammation, I mean, anything, there's basically, the Chinese have figured out over a millennia, right?
5,000.
Herbal or mushroom preparation could be used to treat those conditions, right?
Absolutely. But it's really interesting. And even cannabis, what came first, fire or cannabis? So you can say that we put, the ayahuasca, the chacruna and the ayahuasca together, but we also put fire together with cannabis to recognize that the decarboxylation is what we need in order to get high. So you were saying, the plant is evolving, but the plant doesn't evolve without us. And we don't evolve without it. And it is the same pretty much for the entire plant kingdom. I really, truly believe that. Like, does a rose exist if we don't ever smell it or don't ever see it? It's just, it's a highly intellectual conversation. But also, if we just compare it to nature, we recognize that we are nature, and we just continue to try to put ourselves above nature. So we actually are. What if we're one of those plants?
Right.
What if the human is a plant? What if the human is like the chacruna, and then the ayahuasca is the ayahuasca? And when you mix the two together, that's when you get it. So now when you mix a human together with a plant, then now we have this ability to be able to exist together and heal together. And that involvement is the magic of whatever you want to call God, whatever it is that you want it to be,
So how many other things potentially are out there that we just don't know or, haven't discovered yet, right?
Almost everything.
I've been connecting.
everything.
It's springtime right
But
now.
we're inventing it right now. So of course it's almost everything, because we're creating it right now. So we're creating the whole future, and as much things as we've created into the past is now going to be exponential. What Josh always talks about is that, the fractal and the whole Mandelbrot of this idea that humanity and nature is a Mandelbrot system that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and fractals more and more and more, because more is being introduced just even alone on this show today. We've all come together, and maybe we wouldn't have even had this conversation if it wasn't all of us. Just
And I like
awesome.
Ayurveda as well as Chinese medicine.
course.
Both have an amazing history and a different way to analyze the body. And I think it'd be interesting if you wanted to talk about just the way that the Chinese medicine analyzes the body through heat, through looking at the tongue. It's super interesting. Like you just open your mouth and put your tongue out, and it's got some white on it. You know, you could tell some things about that.
It's pretty interesting of how we are indicators. We're indicators with everything, and so is the plant. I mean, for me, I can just walk into a group of people, and unfortunately, I feel like now I can even tell the person in like maybe a group of 30, the one who is sick. My body has these capabilities to feel things that maybe I wasn't even able to do before, but because I am existing with these plants and I am existing with human beings that are continuously elevating their mindscape, that helps me elevate my mindscape and be able to perfect the path that I'm meant to be here on. And so that's why it's so important to always surround yourself with people that are really incredible, because then it really lends a hand for you to become more incredible. Just like, if you have a really shitty plant and one that's not doing very well and you want it to do very well, a lot of people will say, oh, let's just isolate that plant. Let's put it over. Not me. I say, put it with the super healthy plants, because then it's going to get that vibration and that feeling of, oh shit, I better catch up. I got to get healthy. And then those plants are communicating with each other. So just like a sick child, you don't want to isolate them. And a lot of people say, oh, it gives things to each other. I mean, that's another conversation. I get it. But, the healthier that we want to be, we want to surround ourselves with more health.
Well, I want to shout out Peter and say, "What's up, Peter? I've been trying to like shout you out for the last couple of weeks, and I've just been missing the ball and forgetting. And this is Peter. He's with Josh, and that's his son, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
What a beautiful family,
Come
Peter.
on, Peter. And honestly, the best cheese I have eaten, period. His wife brought in some of the most amazing cheese.
And the farm that they work with.
And they put hemp seeds in it, and it was unbelievable. And here we are, energy. Okay, well, you can have all of the ingredients and you could do all of the same thing, and one person can make it, and then another person could make it. The energy that you put into it is going to elevate that as well.
And Peter and his wife, super sparked people, really beautiful. I was really taken back by their son. He was so amazing and so energetic and conversational and just confident. And smart. And I know that they're homeschooling. And I also was really impressed with Moravia and Eastern Czech Republic, which is Ostrava, which is the area that Peter lives in. I mean, for us in North America, when we're going to Eastern Czech Republic, the reality is we think we're in the middle of nowhere. We don't understand Eastern Europe very much. And since 1990s, it's only just opened to the West, and it was part of the Soviet Union and so much before. It's almost like a discovery for Western people to come over there and look at it. Even Prague itself, we saw a video of Terence McKenna in Prague and
blew my mind, people.
There's a cool 2.5-hour video of Terence McKenna in Prague in 1992, and he's calling it the Prognosis, Gnosis, meaning he sees it as just an insane portal, this amazing, timeless, unbelievable city. And he talks about Bohemia as a kingdom being a collection of alchemists and nature lovers and high functioning beings. And there's probably a reason why the word Bohemia still exists today, or maybe why hippies used to be called Bohemians, or a Bohemia style of life. And so I just want to say again, Peter, thank you. And we really loved the area that you live in, and everyone that we met in Ostrava was spectacular. And we hope to meet up with more of those amazing people while we're here this week.
Beginning
Well,
of
right
November.
now, sorry. Okay, awesome. Very, very much stoked on Peter and the cheese and all that information. I'm glad you guys had that as a backup because I have been meaning to. And he watches Hash Church all the time, so he's always watching. He's probably watching right now. I did post the Terrence prognosis video in the chat room for anyone that's interested. I want to do this giveaway. I have this giveaway. I don't know what you're going to get. It might be some rosin bags. It might be one of their new big ass bubble spoons. I really like the bubble spoons, the new bubble spoon from the Press Club. Not sure if you guys saw these yet. They're pretty sweet, man. This is like a spoon that the Press Club has created, and it's just a nice big like scooper for like decent amounts of resin, and they've got their name on there, the Press Club, on the bar, on the handpiece, and then on the back of the spoon as well, right there. It's just quality. It just feels good. Shows up in a nice little box here. And I don't know. I don't know if this is what you're gonna get. I don't know if you're gonna get some of their rosin bags. I have no idea. All I do is a giveaway and then they fulfill. So no expectations. Don't be upset if you don't get what you think you're getting, because there is no thinking of what you're getting. You're just getting something from the Press Club. Also, the person who wins is gonna have to get me their address. Otherwise, it's no bueno. So what I would say is, if you can send me an email, I mean, really, ideally, you'd text me on Instagram with the same name that you use on YouTube. If it's a totally different name, I have to be able to connect you to your name. And this is the part that I'm not so good at. So I will warn you, if we can't connect your name and prove that it's you that won, we'll have a problem. So let's try to figure that out. Maybe just send me a message on Instagram. I'll give you a word to type into chat. If I see you type that word in, I'll know it's you. I'll take your address and pass it on to the Press Club. All right. Without further ado, there is only 45 people entered, so there's a good chance, 1 in 45, that you will win this. So I'm going to first make this very, very transparent. The giveaway that is. So we'll put it up on the screen. You can see all the people on the right is our chat room. You can see the ones on the left are all the people that are entered. Just saw a couple of more get entered there real quick. All you have to do to be entered is type something into the chat. So now we got 49. Maybe we'll get a few more. There's 50. Cody Packer. I want to shout out Cody Packer. He did something extremely generous for Dr. David Allen recently, and I just want to thank him for that, for what he did for Dr. David Allen was really beyond and above and beyond, offering help for someone. He really like slam dunked the help, and so thank you, Cody. You're a good dude. All right, Dr. Mark, you're entered for it as well. 59. See, everyone enter, man. Come on, man. This is cool. We got 61. It'd be good to get up to 73. I'm just saying. We're at 65.
Yeah.
Right? 73? Isn't that a good year, Josh?
Yeah,
What
buddy.
happened in that year?
Something good.
Something good. I know one thing. Our parents were at it.
That's what's up. I was like, I'm September 9th, so I don't know what was going on.
Dude, all I know is our mom's eggs were choosing very specific sperms that turned out to be us.
You have to add to that the spirit of the child coming in somewhere in there is part of that.
Part of it. You'd hope. You'd hope. We just blew by 73. We're now in 76. I can't even believe it. 77. That was a very good year for the Grateful Dead. Maybe one of my favorites, actually.
77 is just a classic year.
It was
77 good. Cornell. Isn't that the Cornell show? 77.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh-wee. 78. 78's no slouch. Donna was hard and heavy in 78.
Yeah, she was.
Definitely. The closing of the Winterland, wasn't it? The closing of the Winterland or the
closing of the Winterland?
That was 78.
Yeah.
No, Fillmore is closing now or something, right?
80 entries. Gosh damn. I think I'm going to pick one. Although it's hard to pick one when new people keep coming in, and I hate the idea of cutting people out of an opportunity.
Choose a time, Marcus. Like I'm
gonna set a time frame and a time frame. You've got this much time to do it, and then do a cutoff. That's the fair way to do it. such as in the future, you should do it at the beginning and say, at this time in the show, I'm going to do this.
Well, no, the thing is this timer resets every 15 minutes is the maximum for the Nightbot giveaway. So everyone that wants to enter has to enter within a 15-minute frame. And if we go for past 15 minutes, all the initial people will start being deleted from the entry. So it's at 82. I think that's a pretty much good enough number for me. I'm going to choose a winner here in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's choose a winner. And it looks like it's M. Just M. No picture. Following status unknown. So M, if you are watching, okay, we might re-roll a winner. We'll see. Let's close that for now. If you're watching, you need to be able to get a hold of me either through my email, bcbubbleman@icloud.com, or through Instagram @bcbubbleman. And if you can do that in the very short period of time, and I can confirm that you're you and I have the right M and whatnot, I'll get the press club to send you off a package. And shout out to the press club for sponsoring Hash Church today. Both them and Puffco.
Can we do a giveaway?
Next week.
Yeah, you could do a giveaway next. Well, maybe not next week, but the week after for sure. I have a specific
There
show
you go.
plan for next
Whatever.
week.
Skunk, what?
We've got-
Skunk's doing a giveaway after that.
We have really nice new nutrients that have taken our old nutrients and made them unfreaking believable. So we
Oh
have
yeah.
new nutrients. Yep, it's called Foundations and Transitions. I'd love to
Oh,
give away
nice.
some.
Well, we can do it anytime. I
on,
mean,
bud.
I could do it right now, but first I have to close this giveaway and just make sure that I'm waiting to see M in the chat confirm that he or she knows that they have won. And if they, I'm M. Okay, M, there you are. So
I'm M.
what I need M to do, can you send me a Instagram message?
Press Club's been really nice to us, so we would
We
also
love
we
Press
would also
Club.
like to shout out Press Club. They've been very sweet to us, and they've given us
Amazing.
some
Game changer for
beautiful
us.
gifts. I like the paper that you press with. It's got the glossy side on one side
All their
Yeah.
stuff.
for making rosin.
And they're a
but
whole
everything-
family-run business, like siblings and family.
And it's cool they're out of San Francisco.
Yeah, they're good folks. We definitely appreciate their support, and we want to. Okay, he doesn't have an Instagram. Send me an email.
I love it. They don't even have an Instagram. That's beautiful. I'll just say that this weekend, we would like to say thank you to Marco and Vibes. And we will be in the garden at Mary Jane. And we're going to be featuring a podcast lounge called the Legacy Lounge and doing interviews with any people that we come across, people that reach out to us, people that we find. So definitely reach out to us. It's going to be short and sweet, good times, good energy. And also we're going to participate in numerous competitions this week. Is one of them, the Cups, HW Cup with Fahi and the Ego Clash as a sponsor in there, as an Origins, we'll say. Thank you, Fahi. And we already mentioned Green Maze and the High Secret Cup, and Dabadoo, and Mila, and Milus participating in that. And I feel like there's something else that we're missing, but there's just a lot of stuff happening this week, and we're really excited about it. So we look forward to seeing any people that are going to be here. I know Chris from Humboldt Fungi is going to be here with Lena, who was Frenchie
And
Cannoli.
Igor is running his.
And Igor in the Full Moon Sesh. That's the one I was being really dumb about, but
Yeah.
big up Full Moon Sesh.
They're going to be here too.
And everyone else that we're going to be
Yeah.
participating with.
Beautiful. Sounds like a party. I wish I was there myself. I've got my partners
we're
coming in this
missing
week
you.
from Missouri and Colorado. So I'm going to be spending some time with them. And then literally like next week, I'm taking my son on this fishing trip out to Manitoba to go hang out with my skunkle, which I do hope to get him on Hash Church. My uncle's been puffing jaw herbs for I want to say 50 to 60 years. And he's been yeah, he's just quite enjoyed it. Now he's got a license thanks to Selena, helped him get a medical license, and he's got his grow next to his cabin now. So he's totally stoked on that. And just yeah, it's gonna be amazing to go out to this cabin, the cabin that I used to go to as a kid. You know, when I was like 6 years old, I went to this cabin. That's like literally 47 years ago. And it's going to be a trip to go back and just have that whole nostalgic vibe hit me, get bit by a horsefly and be like, oh yeah, I remember why I left Manitoba.
And just to throw in there, what you're going to get the most nostalgia from is the terpenes.
Of
It really is the
course.
smells of certain areas, and certain time
Yeah.
periods. You hear the birds, but you really smell the smell of Manitoba, and that brings back all of the memories. I actually think that we have olfactory memories from past lives. I even believe
They
that.
say that olfactory is one thing that can trigger memory more than anything, so that's pretty interesting in itself. We have a cardboard cutout of you, Marcus, we're going to carry around. So you'll be here with us, and we're going to have a cardboard cutout of Marcus. We're going to say, take a picture with Marcus.
We should have you in the
Berlin.
lounge. We should do that.
What do you think, Marcus?
I think it's a great idea. You can just record that, put it in a little microphone, a little speaker behind my head, and Bob's your uncle.
It's going to say, may the full melt puff your, bless your
Bless
bowl
your bowl.
up here, on the caption.
Right? Dude, I wouldn't even be surprised. Like it's 99% I'm not going, but I do have so many people trying to get me right there that
Somebody get Marcus a
Marcus.
ticket. Marcus, we have an extra
have a
room
room.
for you.
And
Nice.
actually, the place that we're in is such a score. It is so beautiful. It's right down the street
From Boxenhager
from
Platz.
Boxenhager
Boxenhagers.
Park. We're
Boxenhager
we're
Platz.
right here. So it's in a really beautiful neighborhood, and you can just roll
Beautiful.
right in.
We're gonna have the key. That's all.
Yeah, you can't
We
have
have
the
the key.
Actually, no, there's a code, so you can
Oh,
come
you
this
can
time.
come this time. Yeah, if you can, you're good with numbers.
Yeah, you're good with numbers. So
Bit of a key loser. Bit of a key. Well,
Number-
one time. All you have to do is do something one time, and
No, just once.
it becomes
That's it.
who you are.
Yeah, big key loser.
You're more than that to us.
I'm a bit of a key loser. I'm not gonna lie. I lost the key. We've told the story. You've heard it before. I lost the key. I think
But
it was the
wasn't
motorcycle. I
just
think it blew out of my pocket going like 100 kilometers an hour on the highway to the Ego Clash. That's where I think I
That's
lost
what
out.
it was.
It was like an ancient key that people have kept for like 200 years. We
Yeah.
gave it to
Now it's on like
Had it for
the
2
side of the highway.
hours.
I bet you I
I'm
lost
going
it
to the
within
jar
30
check.
minutes. I'm going to the jar
Yeah, I
check.
know.
Just
It was the
blows out
problem.
of my pocket. Yeah, it's tough. Well, I'm still waiting for this email from M because if I don't get it, I got to go on and give this away to someone else. So I think I think I got it. I think I got it. There it is. Look at this. Perfect. This is
Love you,
wonderful.
ATN.
Thanks for doing the good work yesterday.
You're a good person.
Appreciate you being out there with all the people yesterday.
Well, hey, just doing I'm just happy to be a small pebble on a very big beach, but yeah, I've been doing, protests for decades. I've done rallies in 47 states, so, I had to go out, and since it was local in Berkeley, because I usually go to the bigger ones, usually in Oakland or San Francisco, but those look well attended, so I was on the Gilman Street Bridge with a whole bunch of others, all different ages, young, old. It was absolutely wonderful to see people coming out, and I've done, again, I've done rallies all over the country and some around the world, and the amount of honking that we got, I was blown away. Absolutely, the support of everybody and the people, and seeing they estimated, just the organizers, they had 11 million plus show up, which
Around the
is just
country?
correct, which is just at the critical point, because once a country has 3.5% of its population march,
Huh.
no administration survives that. That's worldwide. So good job, American people.
I wonder
Now
if that
let's
goes
follow
on
through.
I wonder if that goes on that percentage of biology. There's like something in nature that states that no matter how much super pathogenic microorganisms you might have, if there's 3% that is beneficial, that is going to be eating that, then it will turn over to a positive microbiology. Pretty
And it's
interesting.
also that same 3% that stated that no matter what you do, there'll always be 3% that are against you regardless. So, it seems to be a significant percentage. So that we got
Mhm.
3.5. Hey, good job. But we still got a lot of work to do, people. But I was glad to be a part. I was glad to see Americans standing up. And it was also nice to see, I just saw a picture of Canadians across the river were also celebrating and holding signs and support, etc. So thank you, Canadians, who showed up in support as well, to protest alongside with us. And shout out to my wife. It was her first one, so it was nice to get her feet wet. So much love, everybody,
Yeah,
and
brother.
thanks for keeping it peaceful.
But I do really believe that we need more kings.
Not having
Not,
to do
no,
with the
just a
guy.
second. I'm saying, I think we need more kings of men that have a king within themselves. And I think that a conscious king
And
is
queen.
something that a lot of, society has really tried to pull out of men and take away their power. But I believe that, the more conscious kings that we have, the less overriding kings
And
that
it
we
is,
will have.
was it not International Men's Day yesterday as well?
It was.
It's interesting to chant "No Kings" on International Men's Day, having nothing to do with politics.
Nothing to do with politics, just interesting.
That's all. But dude, 11 million's a lot.
That
That's
is amazing.
We went from Oregon to Vancouver, BC on that day yesterday and went all through Portland. There was 20 or 30,000 people in Eugene, all through Portland and Seattle. We're like, damn, we got to catch an airplane, family. How are we supposed to get through this shit?
I-5 was closed. We were going the back roads.
Luckily, the border was easy.
The
Well,
border.
good job, y'all. Way to thread that needle.
Yeah, exactly. You got there. You made it.
I cannot believe it.
We did. It was definitely a hard thing to do, and there was no airplanes available in America, and we had to go to Vancouver. And it was like
Shit.
the one spot where there was open planes, and we are just like, "Hello, motherfucking Luya!" And we
Awesome.
made it. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out today on a really quite lovely Sunday afternoon here in British Columbia. Thanks everyone for watching.
yeah.
Thank you to the Press Club for their sponsorship and their giveaway to M, who I have been able to confirm is M. I now have his email, and I have since sent his email off to Jeffrey at the Press Club. So he will get that email today. Jeffrey will be able to put together whatever it is he's sending you, M. And congratulations once again for winning our little giveaway today. And we'll do the nutrient giveaway next time for sure. Kelly, that sounds like anytime you
I
want
would
to do
love to. I
that,
didn't
just
even
let me
know you
know.
did this fun little giveaway. This is my first time being a part of this little giveaway, and you running that little thing. It makes me want to get involved. We
Yeah,
want to
it's
give away
nice. It's fun. Good, give stuff away, I like it because there was a time where I gave so much stuff away on my channel that it was costing me thousands of dollars annually to ship it, and it got ridiculous. It was like it got up to like 6 or 7 grand, and I was like, I can't it can't cost me 6 grand a year to give shit away,
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to deal with the whole having people pay for their shipping for their giveaways. I didn't like the taste of that in my mouth either. And what I did like the taste of was like I can do it with my sponsors and they can be responsible for sending and dealing with the, all I really have to do is confirm I get the right person with the right contact information, put them together, and I've done my job. And that's really my focus. But I shall say goodbye to everyone. Thanks to Kelly and Josh for coming in from Berlin, and Julie from Skunk Magazine. Thank you, Etienne Fontaine and Dr. Mark and Colin and Caleb, who was here for a while with us. Thanks for coming in and sharing. Much appreciation to all of you. We'll see you next weekend, quite possibly for this abstracts aromatic volatile compound show that we've been planning for months. So let's hope that that happens. In the meantime, Dr. David Allen did chime in earlier and say the amygdala relies heavily on past smells and olfactory input and auditory input. So he wanted to chime that in as well from the MD himself, Dr. David Allen. And yeah, we'll see you next week. May the full melt bless your bowl sooner than later. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. You're important. Fathers are important. You're doing the good work, raising the boys and the girls, and taking care of your partner and spouse the best you can. I find it to be a great honor, the greatest honor of my life, quite honestly, to be a father. And I'm going to continue down that journey. So until next week, may the full melt bless your bowl sooner than later. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.